Super Television. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 51 Tea House Life and Death. Li Jing must choose one of the two major gangs at the dock. The old generation of Lei Gong and others cannot be controlled by outsiders, so he must support the second-generation figure to take the position. On the Black Tiger gang side, Lao Shi died and Haya was seriously injured, but even if Lei Gong's 3 adopted sons were intact, these people were not within Li Jing's consideration. The only Beihai gang member who still had some real skills and true temperament, Wu Sheng, was not a good alliance partner at this moment. Time has changed, and 3 days have passed in a flash. The Black Tiger gang, which had not made any big moves, was now brewing a conspiracy of a decapitation operation. The small leaders who had been in office for more than 3 years, including Huang Feng, and dozens of their colleagues in the gang, accepted the decapitation order issued by Lei Gong at the same time. The weather was cold, with a light drizzle mixed with snowflakes. There were no pedestrians on the streets at dusk. The shops on both sides of the street were closed early because of the New Year and the weather. Huang Feng hid in a dark corner of a narrow alley, waiting for his chance. Not far from here was a tea house, which was owned by the Beihai gang. The leader of the Beihai gang would often rest and drink tea in this tea house, almost every day without interruption, even on rainy days. The leader of the Beihai gang had the habit of going out to drink tea and listen to music. It's almost time. Huang Feng had been waiting in this corner for several hours. He did not choose to act early, but chose the time when the leader of the Beihai gang was about to leave. Bang! With a strong step on his feet, Huang Feng jumped up like a leopard. He grabbed the wall of the narrow alley with his hands, exerted force on his waist, and flipped up the wall with a somersault. The house next to the narrow alley was not high. Huang Feng, wearing black clothes and pants, jumped on the roof several times and went directly to the tea house where the leader of the Beihai gang was. After Huang Feng left the narrow alley and disappeared, a figure wearing black suddenly appeared from the other end of the narrow alley. Has it started? I hope you won't let me down. Li Jing smiled slightly. He had been secretly observing here for a long time. After more than half a year of practice, Li Jing's self-control has reached the peak of the first-level supernatural power. He can control 5 billion cells at the same time, and his chakra practice has just reached the level of Chunin a few days ago. Li Jing's figure jumped up more than 2 feet high and landed on the roof next to him. His figure continued to move forward at an incredibly fast speed. Under the drizzling rain, it was almost invisible to the naked eye. At this time, Huang Feng had already started fighting in the tea house. With Wu Sheng's preparation, there were many Beihai gang members in the tea house, and the leader of the Beihai gang himself joined the battle with a knife. Dang dang tilde boy, since you dare to come, don't even think about getting out alive today. The Beihai gang leader, who was over 50 years old, spoke coldly, and the knife skills he used to attack Huang Feng were also heavier than the other. Huang Feng held a short knife and used his strength to block the heavy knife that was coming at him. Before he could catch his breath, several sharp blades suddenly attacked from behind him. At this time, there were many people on the second floor of the tea house, at least dozens of people. Unfortunately, Huang Feng was alone in the tiger's den, surrounded by enemies, and none of them were his allies and helpers. Dang tilde a series of blade collisions. Huang Feng had just blocked the sneak attack from the person behind him, and the big knife of the leader of the Beihai gang in front of him came again. The big knife was like wind, and the blade was like ice. Huang Feng had no time to take it hard. He leaned back and turned over to avoid the knife that was already on his head. Swish tilde the big knife cut through, and a few strands of black hair slowly fell from the air. Huang Feng, who was in a state of iron bridge, had no time to be frightened, and the sharp weapons surrounding him attacked again. Huang Feng was in a state of danger at this time. He didn't have time to think too much. He rolled over like a lazy donkey with more than a dozen blades. He swept his feet and swept the besiegers to the ground. Li Jing was also watching at the side. He had his own plan. The leader of the Beihai gang must die, but he must die more meaningfully, and this value must be reflected in his son Wusheng. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh tilde with a few barely perceptible sounds. Several men who were besieging Huangfeng screamed and fell to the ground. Who? The leader of the Beihai gang was startled, and then his sharp eyes swept across the scene. Which master is playing a joke on me? Please show yourself. There was no one to answer except the shouting and killing. The leader of the Beihai gang was still in shock, but Huangfeng seized the opportunity and acted quickly. With a few swoosh, he chopped the besiegers to pieces. Puff tilde several henchmen fell to the ground, and Li Jing used several hidden weapons again. There were not many people left on the second floor, but they still gritted their teeth and replaced them. Unfortunately, the injured ones were far from being Huangfeng's opponents. Dad Wu Sheng's voice came from downstairs. The Beihai gang leader was about to respond, but was blocked by a steel knife kicked by Huangfeng. Dang the steel knife was dodged by the Beihai gang leader and rushed into the wall of the tea house. Huangfeng saw a gap and crossed a distance of 3 or 4 meters in 2 steps to the Beihai gang leader. He shook his hand and chopped it down with a knife. Dang the blades collided with each other, and the two were shocked by the huge force and took a step back. Then, the two fought again quickly. Whoosh, there was another light sound, and a steel ball exactly the same as before attacked again, but this time it chose the Beihai gang leader's knife-holding wrist. Swish dad everything happened too fast, from the Beihai gang leader's sword being knocked to the ground, to Huangfeng's beheading blow. And at this time Wu Sheng had just climbed the stairs, just in time to see Huangfeng's last blow. Wu Sheng's eyes widened, and his pupils suddenly shrank. He couldn't believe the scene in front of him. He was dead. He was really dead. His head was chopped off, the blood was bright red, the heart could not feel, and the person could never say a word again. Wu Sheng opened his eyes wide. His eyeballs were full of bloodshot, and his heart-wrenching roar was mixed with the hatred that reached the sky. But this did not affect Huangfeng. He pulled over a tablecloth and casually wrapped up the head of the Beihai gang leader. Wu Sheng's teeth were clattering. His eyes were getting colder and colder, staring at Huangfeng and saying, "No matter who you are, I will tear you into pieces." Humphrey. Huangfeng snorted coldly, hung his head on his waist, and ran directly to the window of the tea house. Bang! The window was smashed. Huangfeng flew down, and Wu Sheng behind him also jumped down. The street outside the tea house was not wide. At this time, the street was full of Beihai gang members who had heard the news. Hundreds of people had surrounded this place. Huangfeng had no way to go except to fight. Dang! Huangfeng in the central area had already fought with Wu Sheng, and the Beihai gang members gathered more and more. In a short while, there were thousands of people. Chapter 52 Bloody Storm. Chapter 52 Bloody Storm. Wu Sheng's eyes flashed coldly, and the blade in his hand slashed down. Huangfeng gritted his teeth and took it. The blades collided with each other, sparks flew everywhere, and even the light rain that was still falling could not cover it at all. Wu Sheng slashed one blade after another. Each blade was heavier than the last, and Huangfeng was suppressed by Wu Sheng's fierceness and was at a disadvantage for a while. Swish. If you defend for too long, you will lose. Huangfeng was hit in the left shoulder by Wu Sheng. Bright red blood flowed down and dripped onto the ground, immediately dyeing the shallow puddles on the street red. Li Jing, who was watching from the rooftop, had no intention of intervening at this time. It was not the right time. Huangfeng really couldn't die now. He still had a use, and this use was to be the bait to hang Wu Sheng. As long as Huangfeng was alive, Wu Sheng would be single-minded in revenge and would be obedient. Swish. Huangfeng groaned, and was stabbed by a knife in the back again. The knife wound was more than 10 centimeters long, and blood flowed from the wound. Huangfeng fought and retreated all the way, but it was still no use. Wu Sheng attacked him repeatedly in front, and the others attacked him from behind. In addition, there were more and more Beihai gang members around him. At this time, he could not escape, and it was a delusion to hold on for a few more minutes. Swish. Huangfeng's legs and back were stabbed by the blade again. He staggered and knelt on the ground, breathing heavily. Did his physical strength reach the limit? Crackling tilde. Suddenly, a pile of firecrackers in the shed next to the street were ignited, and the firecrackers flew into the crowd and exploded. This sudden change immediately caused the crowd that was besieging Huang Feng to fall into chaos. "Get out of the way!" Wu Sheng shouted, wanting to kill Huang Feng, who was already exhausted. Unfortunately, the riotous crowd in front of Wu Sheng could not move in this narrow alley. In addition, a large number of firecrackers were lit next to him. Wu Sheng was eager to kill the enemy at this time, but he was just anxious. In the chaos, a figure rushed out from the shop on the street, bent down and pulled Huang Feng, turned around and pulled him into the shop. While the crowd outside had not reacted yet, the figure only had time to lock the door, and then ran away with Huang Feng on his back. Li Jing stood on a high place, watching everything happening in front of him coldly. He didn't expect that even if the plot started 2 years in advance, Huang Feng was still rescued by Su with buck teeth in the end. Was Huang Feng's life hard, or is the inertia of historical plots strong? It doesn't matter. None of this matters. What matters is that Li Jing's goal has been achieved, and this ending couldn't be better. According to Li Jing's current strength, it is not difficult to take Huang Feng's life, but this matter requires a timing issue. Death is easy, but he must die with value, and this value is for himself. The matter came to an end, and the rest had nothing to do with Li Jing. He turned around and jumped off the roof, disappearing quickly in the drizzle at dusk. A few days passed slowly, and Huang Feng was at ease recuperating in the Black Tiger gang. Lei Gong kept his promise and accepted him as his fourth adopted son. Then he issued an order, and the Black Tiger gang took advantage of the victory to repeatedly invade the territory of the Beihai gang. With the death of the leader of the Beihai gang, the entire huge gang suddenly became a state of being leaderless. Wu Sheng was not good enough. He did not have the ability to integrate all the forces of the gang. The Beihai gang was beaten back by the Black Tiger gang and had no ability to fight back. It was like a sand castle, and it collapsed in the blink of an eye. Master Wu sent someone here." Nai Jiao came into the room to report. Li Jing smiled slightly. "Has his trump card finally run out? Bring him here." "Yes," Nai Jiao responded and turned to go out. Not long after, Nai Jiao returned with a short man in black. "Master, the person has arrived." "Well, you go down first." "Yes." Nai Jiao retreated. Li Jing looked at the person in front of him. Being sent by Wu Sheng at this time, it seems that he should be a trustworthy person around him. "President Li." The man bowed to Li Jing. "Well, what did your young master send you to do?" "President Li." The man took out a letter from his arms and handed it to Li Jing. "My young master is inconvenient, so I sent me to bring you a message. Please don't blame me." "President Li." "Well." Li Jing took the letter and opened it to read. The content of the letter was very simple. It was nothing more than wanting to use Li Jing's power to preserve the Beihai gang's dwindling foundation. Although the Huangpu Chamber of Commerce was not a gang, the power it could mobilize was not weak, and Wu Sheng saw this point. As for the revenge for his father and killing Huang Feng, it was not mentioned in the letter. It seemed that Wu Sheng still wanted to rely on his own strength to do it himself. "Go back and tell your master that I have agreed to this matter, but the price he paid is not enough. As for the price, there is no rush. I will talk to him in person later." "Yes, President Li. Then I will take my leave first." Li Jing waved his hand, and the man in black bowed and saluted, turning away. Wu Sheng was still so unreliable in doing things. He wanted to make the Huangpu Chamber of Commerce turn to the Beihai gang, which was already in danger. With just one letter. Under normal circumstances, this would never be possible. But it didn't matter. The conditions that Li Jing wanted had been met, and he didn't care about these insignificant things at all. A few days passed again, and the news spread from the outside world made Lei Gong furious. Huangpu Chamber of Commerce suddenly formed an alliance with the Beihai gang, which suffered heavy losses. This made the Beihai gang, which was almost lingering on, suddenly breathe a sigh of relief because of foreign aid. It would not be so easy for the Black Tiger gang to take down the Beihai gang in one go. Huangpu Chamber of Commerce did not rely on people to conquer the world, but they had money. In this chaotic era, as long as they had money, It would not take long to raise a decent team. Moreover, Huangpu Chamber of Commerce had been doing business with foreign merchants for a long time, even including firearms. The Black Tiger Gang's knife and axe hacking could not shake the foundation of Huangpu Chamber of Commerce. Bang tilde a rebellion. A real rebellion. The Huangpu Chamber of Commerce? I respected him as a talent, so I spared his life, but now he has jumped to my Black Tiger Gang, without my permission. I wonder how his Chamber of Commerce can open for business. Godfather, calm down. This Lee guy is looking for death without giving face, so my Black Tiger Gang will help him. The Beihai Gang is already exhausted, even with the addition of the Huangpu Chamber of Commerce. They can't turn the tables. Besha lowered his head and sneered. He has been waiting for too long to dominate the docks. Humphrey, send people to destroy all industries related to the Huangpu Chamber of Commerce. I don't believe that kid is still unwilling to bow his head and be punished. Yes, Godfather. Yes, Godfather. Chapter 53 Black Tiger Attacks. Bsha and Huang Feng both bowed their hands to receive the order. Hutilde Legong let out a breath of foul air, suppressed his anger, and changed the subject, saying, "How is the second brother now?" "Godfather, don't worry, the second brother has passed the critical period now, and he will be fine after recuperating for a while." "Yeah." Lei Gong nodded, looked at Huang Feng below, and said, "Feng, although you have not been in the gang for a long time, you have also made great contributions to the gang. This time, the matter of the Huangpu Chamber of Commerce will be handed over to you. Don't let me down." "Yes, Godfather, I know what to do." Huang Feng bowed his head and responded, but Bsha on the side was stunned. What was going on? Did something go wrong? Or, did the Godfather already notice something? Bsha raised his head slightly and met Lei Gong's sharp eyes. Bsha was dazed and quickly lowered his head again, feeling terrified. "I am old, but not so old that my brain doesn't work well. I can forgive the past, but from now on, if anyone dares to do anything out of line again, don't blame me for not thinking about the father-son relationship." Humphrey tilde yes, Godfather. "Yes, Godfather." Bsha's forehead was sweating. The prestige and words of admonition accumulated by Lei Gong for many years were too much pressure for him. At the Huangpu Chamber of Commerce, Li Jing and Wu Sheng were sitting in the living room. At this time, Wu Sheng was obviously haggard. It seemed that the death of the leader of the Beihai Gang was too much of a blow to him. He even dared not to face this fact until now. But dead is dead. The most important thing for Wu Sheng now is to avenge his father. As for other things, Wu Sheng didn't take them seriously at all, including all the territories of the Beihai Gang. "President Li, this is the situation. I have a deep blood feud and have no intention of caring about other things. So please help me, President Li. As for the remuneration, you can think about it yourself. If you can do it, I, Wu Sheng, will not say no." "Well, Master Wu, you are too polite." Li Jing smiled slightly and said, "Then I wonder how Master Wu plans to take revenge?" "Of course, blood debt must be paid with blood." "Huang Feng, the first one to die is Huang Feng. I will cut off his head and hang it on the gate of my Beihai Gang to be exposed to the sun for 7 days and 7 nights. Only then can I relieve my hatred." Wu Sheng's face was ferocious, as if he remembered his father's head that was hung up by the Black Tiger Gang for public display. Li Jing shook his head and smiled slightly. The biggest difference between him and Wu Sheng was here. Means and ends. Li Jing would often use any means to achieve his goals, while Wu Sheng would focus on some means of venting his hatred and ignore the ends. "Then I wish young Master Wu will get what he wants. As for the Beihai Gang, Li will take care of it for you." "Thank you." Wu Sheng bowed his hands to express his gratitude. Li Jing's purpose was not concealed, so how could he not see it? However, Wu Sheng's mind was now focused on revenge for his father, and he didn't care about anything else. Time passed, and the Black Tiger Gang launched a policy of burning, killing and looting against the Huangpu Chamber of Commerce. All shops with the 3-ring logo on the street could not escape this disaster, and Huang Feng led a large number of black-clad gang members and went straight to the headquarters of the Huangpu Chamber of Commerce. Today was destined to be an extremely chaotic day. There were 4 largest forces on the dock: the Beihai Gang, the Black Tiger Gang, the Huangpu Chamber of Commerce, and the orphan gang. Today, the four major forces set out to take action together. Bang! The door of the Huangpu Chamber of Commerce was kicked open, and a large group of black-clad men rushed up, and surrounded the place. Huangfeng, wearing a black brocade robe, stepped into the gate, and the men around him all stepped aside to make way for him. President Li. In the empty Chamber of Commerce hall, there was only one person sitting in the first seat. He was wearing a black striped suit and his hair was cut short again. It was Li Jing himself. "It's me, the fourth master of the Black Tiger Gang has come to visit. I am sorry for not welcoming you. There is no point in saying more. Today is the day when the Huangpu Chamber of Commerce will remove you." President Li, I heard that you are good at kung fu, so let's show it with your hands. Li Jing smiled slightly and did not answer. It was indeed time for things to end. Power, manpower, and money were just auxiliary. These were indispensable conditions for defending the country, but the premise was to be able to conquer the country, so in the end, we still couldn't escape using force to solve the problem. It doesn't matter, it suits my heart. Li Jing shook his hand and took out the tang sword that had never seen blood. Today it was time to let it drink blood and sharpen its blade. Shoo! The blade was unsheathed. The cold light was dazzling. Li Jing and Huangfeng moved at the same time, a few steps across the distance, raised their hands, and the sharp blades intersected. Dang! The two swords collided. Li Jing stood firmly in place, while Huangfeng was suddenly knocked back 3 or 4 meters by the huge force of the sword. He raised the sword horizontally, and his wrist was shaking slightly, and the blade made of fine steel was also knocked out by Li Jing's tang sword. President Li is really a hidden talent. It's just an appetizer. Come on. Li Jing smiled and waved his hand. Huangfeng gritted his teeth and staggered his steps. The blade turned and cut across the waist to where Li Jing was. Li Jing shook his hand and made a knife flower, and the tang sword stood upright at his waist. Dang! The two swords collided again, and Huangfeng continued to move the sword like the wind, faster and faster. Li Jing smiled and defended himself comprehensively, and no water could get in. Dang! Huangfeng's sword technique is very simple, but it is fast and accurate. However, he is obviously not yet a martial arts master in his middle age, and he has not reached the peak even in his 30s. After more than a dozen rounds, Li Jing has figured out Huangfeng's tricks, and he no longer wants to continue. Li Jing's tang sword turns and slashes down diagonally. The two blades did not collide. Huangfeng changed his tactics temporarily, with the handle of the sword facing forward and the tip of the sword behind, bypassing Li Jing's tang sword and slashing across Li Jing's head. It's useless. Li Jing smiled continuously. After the strengthening and adjustment of his supernatural power, his dynamic vision is dozens of times that of ordinary people, and his brain's neural reflexes are not comparable to ordinary people. In addition to the huge force of 2,000 pounds in one hand and the assistance of chakra, Li Jing at this time is not comparable to Huangfeng at all. Li Jing didn't move his feet at all, but just slightly turned his head, and avoided Huangfeng's sharp knife by a hair's breadth. He slashed with his tang knife in his right hand, and Huangfeng only felt a flash of black light in front of his eyes. The unique vigilance of a warrior made his body retreat slightly. Swish! The clothes were torn, and Huangfeng's abdomen was already injured. If he hadn't dodged quickly, he might have ended up with his stomach ripped open. The blood on the tip of Li Jing's knife dripped down, and soon it dripped away, bright and clean as new. Huangfeng, you are not my opponent, and your opponent is here now. Huangfeng, who was covering his abdomen, was stunned. Puff! There was a sound of chopping and killing outside the Chamber of Commerce. Not long after, Wu Sheng, with a few blood stains on his body, stepped into the hall. When he saw Huangfeng, the aura he exuded became more and more fierce. Huangfeng, today is the day you die. Wu Sheng's eyes were cold as he stared at Huangfeng. The hatred for the murder of his father was irreconcilable. Today he must fight to the death. It's either you die or I die. Chapter 54, The Final Battle in the Attic. You guys should handle your own affairs. I have something else to do, so I won't accompany you any longer. Li Jing smiled and turned to walk out the door. The fight between Huangfeng and Wu Sheng was about to break out. and they had no time to care about Li Jing's actions. The Black Tiger gang thugs at the door were not worth mentioning at all, and were knocked to the ground by Li Jing with a few slashes. All the preparations had been completed, and it was indeed time to finish. Li Jing did not intend to hold back and wait any longer. After leaving the Chamber of Commerce, he flew directly onto the roof of the street, moving very fast all the way. It took less than a few minutes to reach the destination of this trip. "Aho, how is it going? Are you still worried about me taking action? There is no such person as Black Crow in the world." "Well, the current situation is getting more and more chaotic. I don't know if Off is safe." "Don't worry about him, Ah-chun. Now there are only Lei Gong and Sha in charge of the Black Tiger gang. When the big thing is done, Off will naturally come back." "Well, I hope so." Who? Come out. This is a slum area, and this is an old tea shed." The footsteps came from a distance and slowly approached. Chiyuo and Ah-chun in the tea shed looked at each other and ran out together. The man was in a suit and had short hair. Chiyuo and Ah-chun didn't know him. "Who are you?" "It doesn't matter who I am. The important thing is that you are too much of a nuisance." Li Jing smiled slightly. "You?" Chiyuo was shocked. Li Jing's words could get too much information. Is it a nuisance? Has he discovered the existence of the orphan gang, or has he already known the plan between him and Huangfeng? "Who are you?" Ah-chun was also a smart person, but like Kai-huo, she was not worried about her own safety, but about Huangfeng's situation. Swoosh! Li Jing casually pulled out his tang sword, shook his head slightly, and said, "There is no point in saying more. Don't worry, Huangfeng will be with you soon." Kai-huo wanted to ask more questions, but unfortunately Li Jing didn't want to waste any more time, and the tang sword slashed out. "Ah-chun, go." Kai-huo pushed Ah-chun away, wanting her to leave first. "Ah-huo dang puff everything happened too fast." Ah-chun hadn't reacted yet, and the short sword that Kai-huo used to block Li Jing had been cut off by the tang sword. The blade went down and directly cut the flesh and ribs on Kai-huo's chest in half. With a scream, Kai-huo fell to the ground with blood spurting out. It was not that his kung fu was too bad, but that he had miscalculated. Li Jing's tang sword was made from the furnace of creation, and it was a real killing weapon. Such material is very magical. It can be materialized into any existence in the universe, as long as there are enough points. It is not surprising that this tang sword can be upgraded to a fairy weapon or a living individual. Li Jing swung the sword to shake off the blood. He had not used his full strength yet, and he only used a quarter of his strength when attacking Huangfeng before. "Aho, Ah-huo, you woo-woo." Ah-chun knelt down beside Kai-huo. Everything happened so fast that he couldn't even believe it. "Go quickly." Kai-huo was almost out of breath. He wanted to push Ah-chun away, but he felt as if he had lost all his strength and couldn't even lift his hands. "Don't waste your energy. I have applied anesthetic powder on this sword. It will take effect when it sees blood. I guess Huangfeng has no strength to move now. He can only wait to die." "What? Li Jing smiled and nodded, but raised the tang sword in his hand again. Swish! Kai! Two cold lights flashed, and Ah-chun's pupils shrank, and then they expanded directly. They died directly and happily. When Li Jing turned and left, blood began to flow from their necks. "Orphan gang, it's the Black Tiger gang's turn next." Li Jing moved on the roof at an incredibly fast speed. It didn't take long for him to reach the Black Tiger gang's territory again. At this time, the positions of Lei Gong and Sha had been confirmed. What awaited them was another feast of killing. In the attic of Lei Mansion, Lei Gong and Sha were waiting for news together. The Beihai gang was no longer a concern, but the Huangpu Chamber of Commerce was a little confusing. Although the troops sent to burn and rob stores had won successive victories, no news had been sent back from Huangfeng, who went to the Chamber of Commerce headquarters. "Godfather, how about I go over to see the situation?" "No need." Lei Gong glanced at them sharply, and changed the subject, saying, "Since President Li is here, why don't you show up and talk to me?" "What?" Sha was shocked. The footsteps came from far away, and Li Jing walked into the house. He smiled and said, "As expected of Thunder God, you are so old, but your ears are still so good." "It's not that I have good hearing, It's that President Li doesn't want to hide it at all. Thunder God stood up and took a few steps forward. Whatever, Thunder God can think whatever he wants. Li Jing smiled continuously, without commenting. Godfather, since this kid can come here, what about the fourth brother? Sha took a step forward and stood beside Thunder God. Thunder God nodded slightly. The implication was self-evident. It seemed that the situation at Huang Feng's place was not optimistic. President Li, you came uninvited this time. Are you trying to take my life? Li Jing nodded and said, Lei Gong is smart. He hit the nail on the head. Boy, you are too arrogant. You want to take my adoptive father's life. You have to get past me. Sha first. Sha stepped forward and directly blocked Lei Gong and Li Jing. Lei Gong frowned. When did he need others to decide his life? Step back. Adoptive father? Sha turned around. Do you have to say it twice before you understand? This is adoptive father. I know. Sha stepped back unwillingly. Lei Gong stepped forward again. Young man, there are too many people who want my life. Don't say I won't give you a chance. Come on, let me see how capable you are. As you wish. Li Jing did not take out the Tang sword, but directly approached Lei Gong with a tiger step, raised his hand and punched him hard. Lei Gong was not vague, kneeled slightly, and the hard bridge and hard horse style of Overlord lifting the tripod had already blasted out. Boom tilde bang tilde. As soon as the two of them fought, it was like a collision between Mars and the Earth. Li Jing's punch was too powerful and directly passed through Lei Gong's left fist blockade and hit his chest, while Lei Gong's right fist also flashed out and hit Li Jing's chest directly. The two of them stepped back a few steps, and the floor under their feet creaked. Li Jing used force on his feet to stabilize his body, but Lei Gong took 7 or 8 steps back before he could stop. His face was a little red, and it was obvious that Li Jing's heavy punch was not easy to receive. Li Jing smoothed the wrinkled clothes on his chest, smiled slightly, and said, Is Lei Gong old? This little bit of strength won't do. Come again. Lei Gong took a deep breath, stepped hard, and his body of at least 200 pounds flew into the air and rushed directly towards Li Jing. Li Jing stood firmly in his horse stance, waiting for the rabbit by the tree, and the opening move of Tai Kai was already used. Papa tilde the four hands touched, making a crisp sound like leather hitting leather. Li Jing had not been out of the house for 10 years, so his Tai Kai technique of using softness to overcome hardness was not very advanced, but he had a high starting point. He had several thousand pounds of strength. Even if he could not use the technique of using 4 ounces to move 1,000 pounds, he could at least use several thousand pounds to move tens of thousands of pounds of strength. This was obviously unfair to Lei Gong. Even if he practiced for another 2 lifetimes, he would not be able to have tens of thousands of pounds of strength. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 55, Unification of the Pier. Bang tilde Lei Gong was thrown away and hit the pillar of the attic. Ahem tilde Tai Kai, sliding from the pillar. The impact behind Lei Gong caused damage to his internal organs, and blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. Li Jing nodded slightly as a reply. The reason why he chose to fight the enemy with bare hands was to hone himself, but now it seems that he does have many flaws. His skills are not in place, his strength is uneven, and his technique is not very good. Young man, you are really strong. I don't know how you practiced. Lei Gong stood up, wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and took an attacking posture again. Li Jing did not answer, but went forward and used a move of splitting Huashan. Lei Gong did not choose to take it hard, but dodged and moved away. Ka tilde the pillar behind Lei Gong was split off by Li Jing's palm. Lei Gong was startled and seized the opportunity to lean his shoulder hard. Li Jing was knocked several meters away by the mountain leaning and fell heavily on the floor. Lei Gong frowned at this time, and there was no joy on his face. As expected, Li Jing, who had fallen to the ground, turned over and stood up, patting his clothes as if nothing had happened, with a slight smile on his face, showing no sign of injury at all. As the fight continued, Lei Gong's brows became more and more furrowed. Snap tilde bang 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 tilde. The fight became more and more intense, and the two became more and more destructive. In a short while, the situation in the house was as terrible as if it had been attacked by a storm. Lei Gong threw Li Jing to the ground with an over-the-shoulder throw. Bang! The floor shook, and a trace of blood flowed from the corner of Li Jing's mouth. His eyes turned cold, and he swept his feet along, and Lei Gong's heavy body was immediately brought to the ground. The two lay on the ground, rolling, and Li Jing suddenly hit with his elbow. Snap bang! Lei Gong's palm cut across, hitting Li Jing's arm directly, knocking his heavy elbow off and hitting it on the floor, and the wooden floor was immediately cracked by the heavy blow. The two men had incredibly fast reflexes. One move followed another, and each move was ruthless and went straight to the vital points. After kicking each other again, the two men finally left the range of close combat and slowly stood up a few meters apart. Lei Gong, whose clothes were tattered, took a breath. Young man, it seems that I am really old. Even if you hold back and give in, I am no match for you. Give in? Li Jing shook his head. You are wrong. I am not an indecisive person. What? Lei Gong was stunned. Then he thought of something and cursed. Smelly boy. You actually used me to practice martial arts with you? You are right. Li Jing smiled slightly. It's a pity that you still have to die. Death is not scary. Little boy, answer my last question. Tell me, what kind of martial arts are you practicing? You can withstand so many punches from me and still remain unharmed. What kind of method is this? Lei Gong tried hard to stand up straight. He hit Li Jing with many punches, but he also suffered many heavy blows. If Li Jing hadn't held back his strength, Lei Gong would have been beaten into a pool of meat paste. But even so, Lei Gong was now exhausted and on the verge of collapse. The 13 Protector's golden bell cover is a kind of hard qigong. Li Jing made it up. There was no other way. He couldn't tell outsiders about the reformed Rhino organization. Moreover, Lei Gong only wanted an answer. As for what the answer was, it was not important. Lei Gong laughed and said, I didn't expect that there is a martial arts genius like you in the world. You have practiced hard qigong to such a level at such a young age. Come on. Even in the end, I will not admit defeat. In fact, you could have survived. Unfortunately, you can only blame yourself for this. You didn't know people well. You have 4 adopted sons, 3 trash and 1 traitor. Keeping you will only do harm. What? Lei Gong was shocked. The 3 trash were not important, and the traitor was Huang Feng. Huang Feng was originally an undercover agent. He privately gathered a group of orphans and called them the Orphan Gang. He was undercover in the Black Tiger Gang just to overthrow the rule of people like you. So, although I am very optimistic about your way of doing things, I have to say that your judgment of people is really too bad. This. Lei Gong's body, which was already exhausted, shook again, and it consumed most of his last breath of energy. There were 4 adopted sons in total, and 3 wastes were not as big a blow as a traitor. Li Jing stepped forward, and he had wasted enough time. His move was as fast as lightning, and 90% of his strength burst out directly, hitting Lei Gong's neck heavily. The bones made a crisp sound and shattered directly. Lei Gong's defense was directly penetrated without any hindrance. His eyes widened, his body shook, and he suddenly fell to the ground and died. Li Jing waved his hands, turned his head and looked towards the corner of the room, saying, I think you've seen enough of the show. Why don't you come out? Crash. In the corner of the room, the broken cabinets suddenly scattered, and a figure jumped out. It was Bsha who had spoken before. President Li, do you still want to kill me? What else? Li Jing moved closer. Bsha took a step back and shouted, Chairman Li, my adoptive father is dead, and I am the only one who can be the head of the Black Tiger Gang. I can gather the gang members and leave the dock directly, and give you all the territory on the dock. I can kill you. Can't I do the same thing? Chairman Li, Bsha waved his cane. If I withdraw, you can take the dock without any soldiers, and if I die, all the brothers of the Black Tiger Gang will avenge me and my adoptive father. Li Jing smiled slightly and said, if you don't tell me, I might have to spend some effort, but it's a pity that you are useless now. Swish. The tank sword was unsheathed, and Bsha didn't even see how the Tang sword was taken out. He held the cane horizontally in his hand, trying to block the attacking black sword light. Danka with a crisp sound. The cane in Bsha's hand shattered to the ground. He was stunned for a moment, and then threw a fine steel dagger in his hand as a hidden weapon. Whoosh! The short sword flew towards Li Jing. Li Jing swung his sword and knocked it away. He didn't expect that Bsha was so insidious that he even had a weapon hidden in his walking stick. Unfortunately, the gap between the two was too big. President Li, swish! The knife flashed, and the head fell to the ground. Bsha didn't finish his last sentence until he died. Li Jing kicked Bsha's head next to the corpse, and took out a bottle of powder from the tattoo space. This was a bottle of corpse powder, worth 20 points. The corpse powder dissolved immediately when it came into contact with blood, and a puff of green smoke arose. Bsha's body quickly dissolved into a pool of blood. Li Jing's mind moved, and his body had already changed. In just 10 minutes, Li Jing's appearance had changed into Bsha's appearance. The next thing was easy to handle. Relying on Bsha's appearance, Li Jing spent a few days to gather all the remaining forces of the Black Tiger Gang, and then incorporated the Black Tiger Gang's forces into the territory of the Huangpu Chamber of Commerce. There were no other accidents happening to Wu Xing and Huangfeng. After being poisoned by Li Jing's anesthetic powder, Huangfeng was no match for Wu Xing and finally could not escape the fate of being beheaded as a warning to others. Chapter 56. The Old Monk. Huangpu Chamber of Commerce went a step further and directly disbanded the leaderless orphan gang, and then began to fully incorporate the territory of the Beihai Gang. In just 1 month, the Huangpu Chamber of Commerce has become the only one on the dock, running rampant independently. At the Chamber of Commerce headquarters, Li Jing slowly sipped his tea, and there was a person standing in front of him. I didn't expect you to really make the Chamber of Commerce to this extent. Shen, really underestimated you at the beginning. Shen Guo stood in front of Li Jing, excited and a little overwhelmed. He didn't expect that a small investment plan at the beginning would bring back such a big scene today. He just wanted to rely on the ability of the Chamber of Commerce to swallow up a few more corporate assets. Unexpectedly, the dock is dominated by one person, which is something that I dared not think of before. Li Jing shook his head and smiled, saying, I called you here today just to solve one last little thing. What is it? Tell me, what can't we do now? Puff. The long knife pierced through his chest. Blood spurted out of Shen Guo's mouth, and his pupils shrank sharply. He held the blade tightly with both hands, raised his head and stared at Li Jing, and couldn't even believe the scene in front of him. Why is this? A bright future is just around the corner. How could this happen? Li Jing pulled back the murderous weapon, looked at Shen Guo who fell to the ground with his eyes open, smiled slightly, and said, people need to look at equal relationships. If it is not equal, what else is waiting for you except death? Obviously Shen Guo could no longer answer Li Jing. His chest was pierced through. Even if Huichuo was alive, he would never be able to save him again. Amitabha. A Buddhist chant was heard, and Li Jing turned around without surprise. He had already discovered the hidden person. This was a big-headed monk in his 40s or 50s, wearing an old light yellow monk robe. He put his hands together and whispered, Donor, you have committed murder in vain. Aren't you afraid of being punished by heaven in the future? Li Jing smiled slightly. Although the headquarters of the Chamber of Commerce was not well guarded, the monk came and went freely, and his ability to hide his aura showed that he was obviously a kung fu master. Old monk, you came here uninvited. You are definitely not here to beg for alms or preach. If you have something to say, just be direct, so that I don't have to bother guessing. Donor, I shouldn't interfere in worldly affairs, but I have failed to live up to the trust of an old friend, causing his only son to die tragically at your hands. So today I have to break the vow of killing. Old friend? Only son? You are not talking about Huangfeng, are you? It's this kid. Although he didn't die directly at your hands, the incident was caused by you, and the kid Chiuo also died miserably at your hands. I know all this clearly. May the Buddha have mercy on me. I am ready to go to hell and take the precepts. Donor, make your move. Li Jing nodded and said no more. No matter how much he said, he still had to fight. Since this old monk had a past relationship with Huang Feng's father, it seemed that he should be the master who taught Huang Feng martial arts. Hot-Hilda the monk exhaled like a rainbow, and looked like a furious King Kong. He stepped on the ground, approached quickly, and raised his hand to punch. Bang! Li Jing and the monk exchanged punches, and both were knocked back a few steps at the same time. It seemed that they were evenly matched. Li Jing frowned and shook his hands. He had already used 70% of his strength. This punch weighed several thousand pounds. Old monk, you have great strength. Donor, you are too talkative. Take another move from me. The old monk seemed to know some hard Qigong techniques. He inhaled and tightened his abdomen, took 2 steps forward, stepped on the horse stance, and raised his hand to stretch out a tiger claw. Li Jing frowned again. At this distance, the old monk could not hit him at all. And unfortunately, things often go beyond people's expectations. The old monk's tiger claw uses the technique of Tong Bai Luo and fist. The claw is stretched out for an unimaginable distance. Li Jing dodged, but his clothes were still cut by the old monk. The old monk was highly skilled in martial arts and had great strength. He was much more difficult to deal with than the thunder god of the Black Tiger Gang. Old monk, since you are looking for death yourself, don't blame me. The monk did not go to the 4 great voids, but he came to trouble him. Li Jing said no more and punched out, directly carrying 100% of his strength. Bang bang bang! The 2 of them kept fighting. The old monk took every move hard and did not give in. He had been immersed in martial arts for decades, and the many boxing techniques he used were integrated together. It was extremely complicated, but he could do it with ease. Bang! Puff! Li Jing was hit in the chest, and felt his internal organs shaken. When he opened his mouth, blood flowed out. Li Jing was shocked. Is this internal force, or hidden power? I have practiced martial arts for decades. I have already integrated the Heart Sutra of Bodhidharma with external skills and developed my own internal strength. Donor, reincarnate and be a good person. The old monk burst out with strength, and shook his hand and slapped again. Take your sister off. Li Jing's eyes turned cold, and the substitute technique had already been used. With a light sound, in the smoke, the old monk smashed the wooden stake used for the substitute into pieces. The old monk was stunned when he stopped. Swish! The old monk lowered his head to avoid the beheading knife behind him, turned his left hand and slapped it upwards, facing the side of the Tang sword, just wanting to knock Li Jing's Tang sword away. Snap! Li Jing's wrist shook, and then he held the Tang sword tightly. After being hit hard by the monk, Li Jing shook his hand and turned the Tang sword, taking advantage of the situation, and the blade turned in a circle, doubling the power. Swish! The old monk's body skills were poor, and the knife was too fast. He didn't dodge at all, and it cut a big bloody wound on his waist. Old monk, today is the day you die. The anesthetic powder on the blade took effect. The old monk only felt that the wound was not painful or itchy. His head was slightly dizzy, as if his condition had declined and his strength was insufficient. Hey, it seems that I have to break one more precept today. The old monk took out a gourd from his waist, stretched out his hand to pull out the gag, raised his head and poured it into his mouth. Li Jing's nose moved. It was the smell of wine. This monk brought this kind of thing when he went out, or was he prepared in advance? Without the habit of giving the enemy a breath, Li Jing shook his hand and chopped it out with a knife. This anesthetic powder has a great effect. What use is drinking? A knife came, and the old monk was not in a hurry. He took 2 steps back to avoid it, and swallowed it in big mouthfuls without stopping. Li Jing's knife followed one knife after another, and the old monk dodged again and again. Suddenly, his eyes opened, his fingers clenched, and he crushed the wine gourd. Wine is poisonous and can penetrate the intestines, but the human heart is even more poisonous. Feng, your master didn't have time to teach you drunken fist. If you are still alive, you must watch carefully. Drunken fist? Li Jing was stunned. It was rumored that Huang Feng was an expert in both boxing and kicking. His kicking was the shadowless kick he created himself, and his boxing was the drunken fist. Seeing the old monk squinting his eyes and looking like he was drunk, could it be that he passed it on to Huang Feng? Lu Dongbin, a drunken monk can lift a pot with great force. Bang! The old monk seemed to be unaffected by the anesthetic powder, and he was already fully focused and full of energy when he attacked. Li Jing smiled coldly. His internal injuries had long been healed. Drunken fist, nothing works when he is drunk now. Li Jing waved the knife in his right hand, stepped back slightly, and made a seal with his left hand. Fire escape, great fireball technique. Li Jing opened his mouth and spit out a fireball with a diameter of more than 2 meters. The blazing high-temperature flames directly enveloped the old monk. The old monk's eyes widened and his mind was stunned. He didn't know where his boxing skills had gone. What was this scene in front of him? A magic trick? The flames were close to him. Under the high temperature, the old monk's eyebrows were scorched. He suddenly came to his senses and rolled over to avoid it. The wood used as a substitute before had already made him feel weird, and this time the fireball was even more incredible. Li Jing did not stop after spitting out the fireball, but formed a seal again. Thunder escape, ground walk. Li Jing pressed his palm to the ground, and a thread of lightning burst out. In a blink of an eye, it had included the surrounding area within a few feet. Even the old monk who had just dodged the attack of the fireball was no exception. The old monk's robes were scorched by the flames, and there were several burns on his body. Then he was paralyzed by lightning and fell to the ground. Li Jing exhaled slightly. This old monk's martial arts skills were indeed very high, but it was still far from the internal strength in martial arts novels. Li Jing held a knife and slowly walked to the old monk. Old monk, go down and accompany your Huangfeng. Goodbye. Li Jing stabbed down with the tang knife in his hand. The old monk chanted a Buddhist name softly, and his trembling hands were about to clasp together. He didn't hate Li Jing that much, but he failed his old friend's trust and only hated himself for being powerless. Chapter 57, JIT Dinner. There are 3 updates today. This is the second update, and there will be 5 or more updates tomorrow afternoon. The old monk smiled slightly with his chest pierced, and slowly closed his eyes. His previous injuries were not serious, but he could not withstand Li Jing's anesthetic powder, burning, and finally electric shock. The old monk was lucky that he did not commit suicide because his world view was destroyed. After taking a breath, the matter was finally over. Li Jing looked at the old monk's body and whispered to himself, the position determines the battlefield, and life is about perspective. It's nothing but right and wrong. Rest in peace. The matter is over. A few days have passed in a flash, and it's time to return to Earth. Li Jing is in power. He only acts on the dock with one heart. Apart from collecting some calligraphy and paintings and antiques, Li Jing has no other actions, and there is no intention to hand over the power in his hands. After he is gone, it doesn't matter what happens to the dock again. The conditions have been met. Do you choose to return? Yes. The time-space tunnel is being established. The 10-minute countdown begins. 10, 9, 8, 73, 2, 1, start teleporting. In a trance, light years have passed. Looking at the familiar silver space in front of him and the familiar old man in a formal dress, Li Jing smiled slightly. Butler, how did I get this time? Master, this time's harvest may not be ideal. The old man waved his hand, and a blue light screen appeared in the space. 2,400 points? Li Jing was stunned. Why is it so few? Master, history is not so easy to change, and the historical direction of a time and space will not be carried by only one or a few people. Even the so-called child of destiny will not carry more than 1% of the total luck. Therefore, Huangfeng's death in the previous time and space does not mean anything. What does this mean? Can you say something understandable? The old man smiled slightly and said, the number of points is related to various factors of the time and space, such as the level of the time and space, and it depends on how many people's destinies have been changed by the master, and to what extent. Oh, Li Jing was stunned, as if he had figured something out, and said, in other words, killing is not as good as educating. Killing a person does not get more points than changing a person. Yes, sir. Wouldn't it be better to say this earlier? Li Jing rolled his eyes and despised the housekeeper's logical thinking. With so few points, it is obvious that the level of the Huangfeng time and space is too low, and even the protagonist Huangfeng is not worth many points. Send me out first. We'll talk about the points later. Okay, sir. The time and space changed in a blink of an eye. Li Jing shook his head and he was already in his study. There will be another 30 days of relaxation next. There is no need to always attack each other's minds and kill people like cutting vegetables. Take a shower, change clothes. Li Jing did all this slowly and leisurely. The time now is still a little after 1 o'clock in the morning of September 27th. It has been more than an hour since entering the world of Huangfeng. The time difference is really too big. It seems that some drugs or abilities to live forever or maintain youth will be needed in the future. Otherwise, if you stay in another time and space for more than 10 years, wouldn't it be too different when you come back? Li Jing shook his head and lay on the bed thinking about these things. Maybe his bed is just comfortable. After a while, Li Jing, who was not very sleepy, fell asleep quietly. You are my little girl, little apple. I can never love you enough. I am your big girl, big pineapple. Li Jing reached out his hand in a daze, and fumbled to grab the phone that was charging at the bedside. Hello, who is it? Brother Jing, it's me. You are not still sleeping, are you? What time is it? Li Jing was stunned. He knew it was Wang Bao by the voice. He rubbed his eyes and looked at the time. It turned out to be nearly 11 o'clock in the afternoon. He was so confused by the time difference that he almost didn't know what was going on. Brother Jing, are you listening? I am listening. Tell me. What's the matter? This is not the last year, Fatty, and I don't plan to continue to eat and wait for death. Yesterday, we found a job. Oh, what do you do? Li Jing got up from the bed and pulled open the curtains. Auto repair and maintenance. What? Li Jing was stunned. Did he study mechanical engineering for a few years and come out to work as a car repairman? Brother Jing, don't be too surprised. We are still in the internship period of apprentices. You know how difficult it is to find a job these days. It's good enough to have a job and make some money before graduation. That's true. Li Jing nodded. He had been traveling through time and space recently, and he almost forgot about the situation of finding a job. In this 21st century with desires and interests, college students are not worth much, not to mention students who have not graduated from third-rate fake universities. Brother Jing, let's go out and find a place to drink. You have become otaku by staying at home all the time. Li Jing smiled slightly. It was true. Okay, let's meet at the old place. Okay, then you better hurry up. Got it. After hanging up the phone, Li Jing raised his mouth and smiled slightly. Maybe only when he is with old friends, he will be so safe and peaceful. Otherwise, how can people be said to be multifaceted animals? Different positions will lead to different mentalities, and the ways and methods of dealing with people will be even more different. After a simple wash and change of clothes, Li Jing went out and took a taxi to the destination. The old place where they met was not far from the school. It was called Yipenxium, a good place to eat cold dishes on hot days. As the car drove along, Li Jing sat in the back seat and thought about whether he should buy a car to travel. Otherwise it would be troublesome to take a taxi all the time. He should also send some money back to his hometown. He had no choice before, but now that he had money, he naturally couldn't forget his parents at home. But he still needed to think about how much to send and what reason to find to send it. Otherwise, good intentions would not lead to good results, and his family would worry about him doing evil things outside and not learning good things. That would be a mess. Li Jing thought all the way, and the taxi had already arrived at Yipenxium cold food restaurant. He paid and got off the car. Li Jing pushed the door and walked in. This cold food restaurant was not a luxury hotel, but just an affordable small restaurant. When Li Jing entered the door to watch, Wang Bao and Zhu Ting had already been sitting aside waiting. Brother Jing, this way. Wang Bao waved, and Li Jing smiled and walked over. He found that it was not only Zhu Ting who sat with Wang Bao, but also a girl who was not too old. You are too late. We have ordered all the dishes. Zhu Ting stood up and gave up his seat, leaving the chair next to the girl on the outer circle to Li Jing. Li Jing was stunned, but still sat down and said, You know where I live. It's about this fast to take a taxi. Let's not talk about that. Brother Jing, you don't know this junior sister, right? Wang Bao poured a glass of cold beer for Li Jing, and casually pointed at the girl sitting next to Li Jing without saying anything. Junior sister? Li Jing looked at the girl. Her black hair was not very long, and she simply tied it into a ponytail. She was wearing an ordinary t-shirt and jeans. Her skin was very fair, like a quiet and well-behaved girl next door. Yes, a junior, 2 years younger than us. She just entered the sophomore year this year, and she studies design and drawing. Li Jing nodded. He had indeed never seen this girl before, and he still didn't understand how this girl knew Wang Bao and the others. "Hello, my name is Li Jing, and I'm a roommate with Wang Bao and the others." "Yes, I heard about it. My name is Zhuke." The girl was very generous and stretched out her hand to shake hands with Li Jing. Li Jing smiled slightly, and the last name was Zhu. Then he turned his head and looked at the fat Zhu who was eating cold dishes. "No need to guess. She is my cousin," Zhu Ting said vaguely, and then swallowed the food in his mouth and drank a sip of beer to wash it down. "Cousin?" Li Jing was stunned again. What happened today was too strange. A cousin who had been hidden for more than a year and then brought out. A strangely arranged dinner. What was the purpose? Could it be that she was going to arrange a blind date for him? Chapter 58 Zhuke, blind date? Thinking of this, Li Jing was stunned again. He turned his head to look at Zhu Ting who was eating without talking, then looked at Wang Bao who seemed to be smiling, and finally looked at Zhuke who looked indifferent. He felt that there was something wrong with today's dinner. "It's my cousin. Although she doesn't look like one. This is the fact. Brother Jing, don't think about it. Come on, let's go." Wang Bao raised his glass, and Zhu Ting also stood up and raised his glass. Li Jing's senses were much better than ordinary people. How could he not feel Wang Bao's small action of kicking Zhu Ting under the table? With a slight smile, Li Jing also raised his glass and clinked it with everyone, and then drank it all. Could it be that it was really a blind date? This girl looked good and beautiful, but unfortunately, his mind was not on this at all. "Fatty, you did a good job of hiding it." After drinking a glass of wine, Li Jing was also happy to have fun with these good buddies. It was a blind date, and they didn't have bad intentions. "Haha." Tilda Zhu Ting laughed and tried to cover up their past. "My cousin is so beautiful, of course I have to do a good job of defense." "Drink. Let's not talk about this." Wang Bao encouraged him to raise his glass again. "Brother Jing, people can't hang themselves from a crooked tree, don't you think?" Li Jing was stunned and nodded. "What? You were hanged by someone? What does this have to do with that?" Wang Bao took a sip of wine with a smile and said, "Brother Jing, I'm talking about you." "Me?" "Yes, we all know about you in Zhulingaling." Wang Bao paused, afraid that Li Jing would be sad again if the old things were brought up again, so he advised, "Brother Jing, there are plenty of flowers. If it doesn't work, we can find another one, for example." Wang Bao glanced at Zhuke, and Li Jing suddenly realized that this is how love is. Is it necessary to make a fuss about this? Besides, the matter of Zhulingaling has long passed. Brother doesn't worry about it myself. You guys are just making a fuss like you have nothing to do. That happened a long time ago. If you hadn't mentioned it, I would have almost forgotten it. Li Jing tried to get Wang Bao and the others to give up these idle things. Yes, it's in the past. We all have to look forward. It's most important to grasp the people in front of us. Brother Jing, don't you agree? Wang Bao winked at Li Jing while speaking. Li Jing suddenly felt a little stunned. It was useless to talk about feelings. He just climbed out of one ditch and fell into another one. He still cherished the person in front of him. "Who?" "Zhuke, your eyes were too obvious. Even a blind person could see your big eyes." Ahem. Li Jing felt that whatever he said was a bit off topic, so he drank a glass of wine to calm himself down. He said directly, "Don't worry about me, I'm doing fine now, and we are all about to graduate. Shouldn't we think more about our future path now? For example, the job you found this time is very good. Although you are still an apprentice, you have learned a skill after all. After working for a few years and earning some money, maybe you can open your own store and be a boss in the future." "What boss?" "It may take a long time to make that kind of money. By then, you may be too old to run. Don't be discouraged." Li Jing breathed a sigh of relief and successfully changed the subject. "Are you going to be an apprentice all your life? You will get better and better, and make more and more money. As long as you have the ability, you will not be afraid of not having investment." "It's too early to talk about this now. Besides, this apprenticeship is just a spur-of-the-moment decision. and we don't know how long he can do it. Wang Bao shook his head, obviously not overwhelmed by the big picture that Li Jing had painted. He changed the subject and said, "Brother Jing, let's not talk about our business. Look, you didn't even say a word to the beautiful girl when she came. This is really embarrassing for the male god of our 5017. Male god?" When Li Jing mentioned this title, he had the urge to hit him. This is a typical case of picking the tallest one among short people and looking for the hunchback among dwarfs. There are only 4 people in dormitory 5017, except for Li Jian, who is absent all year round. The remaining Wang Bao is a dark-skinned skinny monkey, and Zhu Ting is even more so, weighing more than 180 pounds. With such a ranking, what can he do even if he gets first place? Li Jing laughed dryly, turned to Zhu and said, "Don't mind, we just talk a lot of nonsense when we are together. It's okay, I find it quite interesting, and I can see that you have a really good relationship." Zhu smiled and waved his hand to indicate that he didn't mind. "Well, after all, we have lived together for 3 years, and it's like this usually. We actually say some nonsense. We are used to it." Isn't this good? Only people who are really close will do this. Maybe. Li Jing nodded, and then asked, "What about you? How do you feel about studying here?" "It's okay. I'm not very good at studying, but I have made a few very good friends in the past year or so." Li Jing nodded. Those who can go to such a third-rate university would not have very good grades. In fact, it's not bad to go to a school like ours that is similar to a junior college. At least you can learn professional knowledge, and you will have a skill when you graduate in the future. "Yeah." Zhu smiled and said, "I also regard it as a technical training college." Wang Bao watched Li Jing and the other two chatting enthusiastically, and he was finally relieved. This dinner was indeed equivalent to introducing girls to Li Jing, and Zhu was not Zhu Ting's cousin. It just happened that they both had a surname Zhu. Wang Bao and Zhu Ting saw that Li Jing had hardly gone out for a month and stayed at home, and did not go to school or go out to find a job. It was not until they found that Zhu Lingling and Li Jian went out together that they suddenly realized that Li Jing did not go out and see people because he was hit by a broken heart. The meal was eaten with different thoughts. When it was over, Wang Bao and Zhu Ting pretended to be drunk again and asked Li Jing to send Zhu back. Although Li Jing saw it, he just smiled and agreed. Li Jing understood what the two brothers meant. They just wanted him to get out of the shadow of broken love as soon as possible. Although Li Jing himself did not need it, he did not want to live up to the kindness of his brothers. After Wang Bao and the other two left, Li Jing and Zhu stood at the intersection. "You live in the dormitory now. I'll take a taxi to take you back." "No need, the dormitory is not far, you can just walk back." Li Jing nodded and did not force it, and said, "Then I'll take you back." Zhu nodded in agreement. The two of them walked on the street and headed towards the school dormitory. It was only a little after 2 o'clock in the afternoon and the weather was still very hot. Li Jing, who was only wearing a short-sleeved shirt, controlled the cells to regulate his body temperature. This was an alternative way of practicing. It was comfortable without sweating and could exercise the ability to control cells. Chapter 59, Cruel. What do you think of money worship? Zhu's sudden question made Li Jing pause for a moment. What was the question? After thinking for a while, Li Jing did not give a direct answer, and said, "What do you think of philandering?" "Fickle?" "Yes." Zhu lowered her head to think, and after a while, she raised her head and smiled slightly. "I understand." Li Jing nodded and said nothing. Although the conversation between the two was a bit weird, Li Jing also understood the hidden meaning of this passage. He did not expect Zhu's way of thinking and ideas were also quite flexible, and he figured it out so quickly. Money worship and philandering are nothing more than the needs of desire. To put it bluntly, this is the resource utilization of nature to find a mate. Those with fewer resources want to find those with more resources, and those with more resources can naturally rely on the resources in their hands to find more people with fewer resources. This is a cycle, nothing more than right or wrong. Actually, I was hired by your friend. Yeah, aren't you confused? What are you confused about? Zhu didn't know what to say for a moment. Then why did you send me off? And don't you blame your friend? Li Jing smiled slightly, shook his head, and said, Although good intentions may not necessarily lead to good results, it is always a brother's intention. If there is a beginning, there must be an end. Besides, it's only a few steps to send you back. Juke nodded, put her hands behind her back and walked beside Li Jing. She suddenly turned around and smiled at Li Jing. Are you a playboy? This is another irrelevant question. Li Jing did not hesitate and nodded to admit, yes. I have never been a loyal person. Li Jing's affirmative answer is more like answering himself. Playboy and loyalty are relative. If you can meet the right person at the right time, you may become a loyal person. If a person can't find the love he deeply loves in his life, then how should he deal with it? Moreover, since he came into contact with the time-space system, Li Jing dared not make any rash conclusions. A person's life is only 100 years, which is too short, and the shelf life of a relationship is difficult to reach 100 years, not to mention if it is 1,000 years of getting along. With the time-space system, Li Jing is confident that he can live for hundreds of years, or even longer. And what is loyalty? That is really hanging on a tree. Who dares to guarantee it? At least Li Jing knows that he is not that kind of person. Juke nodded and said nothing. The two walked all the way. It only took 10 minutes to reach the schoolgirls' dormitory. The girls' dormitory is the same as the boys', and it is also an apartment next to the school. Okay, let's stop here. It should be no problem for you to go up by yourself. So goodbye. Li Jing waved his hand and said goodbye, turning around to leave. Give me your phone. Li Jing turned his head and looked at Juke. What's wrong? Just give it to me. Taking the phone that Li Jing took out, Juke lowered her head and dialed a number. The call was connected, but it was her own phone that rang. I know that even if you have my number, you won't call me. Now, I'll call you. Juke returned Li Jing's phone and ran towards the dormitory door. She suddenly turned back and smiled, shook her phone, and said, remember to answer it. Li Jing smiled slightly, watched Juke disappear, shook his head and turned away. What's this? Is it chasing? It seems that it hasn't reached that stage yet. Juke is really beautiful, nearly 1.7 meters tall, with a well-proportioned figure and a delicate and fair face. This is not deliberately dressed up. If she dresses up, she is still a great beauty. From her dress, you can know that she is not from a wealthy family, and Li Jing has not revealed his wealth. Is this an interest in the person himself? Now is not the time to think about these things. What Li Jing is thinking about now is whether to create a company in reality. In the future, there will be more and more time and space to contact, and her actions will become bigger and bigger. If you have money, you must have a cover to cover it so that you can spend it with peace of mind. Otherwise it will be difficult to handle anything. Since he had already covered up his intention to start a company, he had to carefully consider what industry to start with. It didn't matter whether it made money or not, but at least he had to not lose money. Thinking along the way, Li Jing didn't take a taxi back to his residence, but strolled through several streets. Creating a company is feasible but not urgent. This is not a problem that can be dealt with in a day or two. It was not until then that Li Jing realized that he couldn't even find anyone around him to help. Boy, stop, huh? Li Jing was stunned and looked back. There were 3 people coming, led by a curly-haired man with a familiar face. Boy, we saw you from far away. You were lucky last time and got away. Now we have met you again this time. Let's see how you can run. Curly-haired man led the 2 men and surrounded Li Jing. They were not afraid of being captured by the surveillance camera at the intersection. Li Jing smiled slightly. It was true that enemies often meet on a narrow road. These 3 were the thugs who chased after Li Jing was fired from the company and played catching thieves. Kid, what's wrong? Are you scared silly by me? Curly grinned, rubbed his fingers, and said, we won't make it difficult for you today. 20,000 yuan. You can leave immediately after taking the money, and we won't stop you. Idiot. What? Curly was stunned, and then his anger rose. Fuck, are you looking for death? This guy is so bold. He forgot that he was chased like a dog last time? Damn, June, don't talk nonsense with him. This kid just deserves a beating. The 3 of them exchanged glances and surrounded Li Jing together, trying to force Li Jing to a corner that the camera couldn't see. Li Jing slowly retreated as they wished, and took several steps back to the blind spot of the surveillance. There were not many pedestrians on this street, Even if they saw the situation here, they pretended not to see it and hurried past. Curly grinned, feeling that Li Jing was a lamb to be slaughtered. Li Jing shook his head, feeling more and more bored, and said, "Remember to keep your eyes open next time. Don't offend anyone you shouldn't offend." What? Curly was still thinking about what Li Jing meant, but unfortunately, Li Jing didn't want to waste time with these idle people. He just stepped forward and kicked them. Bang bang tilde wow tilde. Curly's abdomen was hit by the force, and he was kicked several meters away and stuck to the wall. Under the huge shock and impact, Curly had no time to react, and a mouthful of blood spurted out of his mouth. This fuck. The remaining two were stunned. This is too fierce. Is this a filming? It's okay to vomit blood, and vomit so much. Will he vomit to death? Crack ha tilde bang puff tilde. Since Li Jing had made his move, he had no intention of giving up halfway, and he simply knocked the last two men to the ground with one punch and one kick. The gangster who was hit by the punch had at least 3 ribs broken, and the guy who was kicked did not have a good ending either. His right leg broken too, and bone fragments pierced through the skin. Chapter 60 Lottery Props. Li Jing squatted down and stared at Curly, who was still unable to get up and bleeding from his mouth. Curly's face was flushed and he had difficulty breathing. He felt that his intestines were kicked. "I spared your lives not because I was afraid of killing people, but because I didn't want to cause any more trouble because of you trash. Did you hear me clearly?" Hearing Li Jing's words, Curly's head was buzzing, and he couldn't say a word. He could only nod with difficulty. "Yeah," Li Jing responded expressionlessly and continued, "The last time you were sent to trouble me, it should be Wang Shugo, right?" Curly nodded again. He felt that if he didn't go to the hospital for treatment quickly, he would really die. "Yeah." Li Jing reached into his arms, took out a stack of banknotes and a pen from the tattoo space, and wrote his phone number on the banknotes. "Call me when you're well. I have something to ask you. Remember this. Don't let me waste time coming to see you in person." Li Jing threw the money down without paying attention to Curly's expression. He stood up and walked away from the corner of the street. As for whether Curly and others would call, Li Jing didn't care. Without wandering around, Li Jing took a taxi back to his residence. There was not much cash in the tattoo space, but more gold, jewelry and silver ingots. There was a total of 100 cubic meters of space. These priceless treasures occupied at least half of the space. No one would ever think that there were too many of these things. There would always be a place to use them. After locking the door, Li Jing went up to the second floor and came to the study. The tattoo space automatically connected to the time and space system. The next second, Li Jing had already appeared in the silver space inside the system. "Butler, this time we only have 2,400 points. Do you have any suggestions?" "Master, your cell control has reached the peak of level 1, and the improvement of superpowers requires a lot of energy. If you only look at your own cultivation speed, it may take 1 or 2 years, so I suggest you exchange 1,000 points for sus energy substances. Because sus substances are the most basic energy in the universe, any cultivation system can directly absorb and utilize them. The system can store these substances in your tattoo space for your daily cultivation needs. In this way, you will be able to upgrade your superpowers to level 2 within 3 months. And the same is true for the chakra energy system you cultivate." Li Jing nodded. "It seems that this should be the most cost-effective." "Okay, let's do as you say." The old man nodded and deducted Li Jing's 1,000 points. Then Li Jing only felt a slight heat in the tattoo space, and then a peaceful and gentle energy entered the body from the tattoo. This sus substance is neither hot nor cold, and it seems to be in existence without any properties. Although the sus substance seems very ordinary, it is neutral and peaceful, and has great tenacity. It nourishes every cell structure in the body without interruption, even the brain. It's quite comfortable. Li Jing feels like he is taking a sauna, bathing and massaging all the time. The cells of the whole body are in a relaxed growth stage. Even the chakra that has reached the bottleneck of Chunin begins to grow slowly without interruption. There are still 1,400 points left. Speaking of which, some of the good things bought last time have not been used yet. Li Jing is not going to buy any more sundries this time. This is mainly due to the random shuttle of the time and space system. It has turned the two worlds of Kung Fu and Huang Feng with huge differences in martial arts levels upside down. If it is Huang Feng first and then Kung Fu, the situation will be completely different. At least there will not be so many mistakes in the first time and space. Take your time. Li Jing clenched his fists. People learn along the way, and it is impossible to know everything right away. Even now, Li Jing is still a little unsure about how to gain more sus material points. Killing is easy, but it is difficult to completely change a person. Butler, I still have one chance to draw a lottery. Yes, sir. Then let's start. Okay, sir. The old man waved his hand, and the golden roulette wheel appeared in the air again. Magic props 5 color flower, magic props folding plane, magic props Xoan Mei chewing gum, magic props yin yang treasure fan, boxing knowledge Zinai boxing, spiritual combat skills hypnosis encyclopedia, 6 grid areas, 6 rewards. Li Jing just twitched his mouth and didn't care about the appearance of chewing gum. What else can he say? System product. Next time, even if there is a shit Superman, he can wave his hand calmly to show that he doesn't care. The pointer moves and stops for 10 seconds. A magical item, Yin Yang Fan. Congratulations on choosing a master. This item is quite useful. Oh, Li Jing reached out to take the item that looked like an ordinary paper fan. The fan was about 1 foot long and was a folding fan. One side was black and the other side was white. It was the same after it was opened. One side had a picture of the sun at its zenith and the other side had a picture of 100 ghosts parading at night. A strange fan. Li Jing already knew the function of this item through the housekeeper's introduction. After storing it in the space, Li Jing asked again, Butler, how does the system develop the human brain? Can a person have multiple superpowers? Master, the structure of the human body is very complicated. Even the system cannot fully understand it. The system can consume a huge amount of sus energy to escort the master to develop 70% of the brain utilization rate, but after that it depends on the master's own qualifications and abilities. The old man paused slightly and continued. As for the issue of multiple superpowers, theoretically, as long as everyone's brain is fully developed and utilized, he can be omniscient and omnipotent and use all kinds of supernatural powers, but this only exists in theory. The reality is even more complicated and more difficult to control. Li Jing nodded. It was too far-fetched to think about these complicated things now. Butler, is there any danger in developing the first 70%? How many sus points will it cost specifically? With the help of the system, the first 60% of development is very safe. But there is still some danger between 60 and 70, so before that, the master needs to improve the cell control ability to a sufficient level. As for the points consumed, this will be a huge astronomical figure for you now. How much? 500,000. How much? 500,000. Li Jing heard it clearly, but the huge number still forced him to ask again. 500,000. He is still living on a few thousand points. Chapter 61 Criminal Cases. Moreover, even if you want to become an intermediate master, you only need to get 200,000 points. I used to think that becoming an intermediate master was too difficult, but now it seems that the conditions for becoming an intermediate master are not so unacceptable. Forget it. Let's consider the remaining 1,400 points. Don't think about the rest. It will only add to your troubles. Oh, right. Li Jing suddenly remembered something. Butler, what kind of relationship exists between movies on Earth and various time and space? The time and space of Huang Feng that I entered before. The real movie will not be released until November. What's going on? The old man shook his head and said, Master, movies on Earth don't represent anything. Just like there are countless points on each parallel line, the same is true for the universe in time and space. They are numerous and endless, and they are destroyed and reborn every moment. Human inspiration may come from the potential illusion of these destroyed time and space. A movie is just the influence of a corner of time and space, and it is far from representing the entire existence of a time and space universe. Li Jing nodded, not quite understanding. It was too complicated. He could only understand that it was under the influence of time and space that humans were inspired and then depicted a movie. After getting the answer he wanted, Li Jing flashed out of the system space. Everything in the world has its reason. If you can't figure it out, it's just that you don't understand it enough. But I believe that one day in the future, there will always be a time to figure it out. Ding dong tilde. The doorbell kept ringing, and Li Jing was shocked. Who would come at this time? Wang Bao and Zhu Ting drank a lot of wine at noon, and now they are only separated for a few hours, so it is unlikely that they will come. Li Jing went downstairs to the living room. The doorbell was still being pressed. Looking through the peephole, Li Jing was stunned. Police. Click. The door opened, and 4 uniformed policemen entered the room one by one without saying a word, and surrounded Li Jing in the center. Your name is Li Jing, right? The burly policeman in the lead asked. It's me. I wonder what you want. Li Jing thought over and over again. Could it be that someone called the police about the gangsters this afternoon? Or did those gangsters call the police? There was nothing else recently. You are suspected of harming others this afternoon, which has caused a serious criminal offense. Come with us. The burly policeman waved his hand, and an assistant next to him took out handcuffs and stepped forward to handcuff Li Jing and take him away. Li Jing's fingers moved slightly, and after thinking about it, he still didn't resist. Do you have any evidence? The victim and the witness have the same confession. The evidence is irrefutable. If you have anything to say, you should go to the police station first. The burly policeman waved his hand and said, take him away. Go. The escorting young policeman pushed Li Jing from behind, but unfortunately he didn't push him at all. The young policeman blushed and was about to give Li Jing a hard time, but Li Jing walked out of the door on his own. It seems that things are not that simple. When dealing with the 3 gangsters, Li Jing used heavy hands. The purpose was to scare the gangsters and make them afraid to trouble him again. But now it seems that there must be outsiders involved, otherwise things would not change so quickly. The police car drove all the way to the Xiangyang Road police station in the new district. Li Jing was squeezed in the back seat by 2 policemen and was treated as a brutal thug. The sirens were turned on, and the road was smooth and unimpeded. It took an hour to reach the destination. Li Jing got off the car and was escorted directly into the interrogation room of the police station. The room was not big, with only a table and a few chairs. Li Jing was handcuffed to the chair and waited. After a while, the burly policeman who had led the arrest came in again. The burly policeman sat down with a recorder and did not waste time, speaking directly as if it was a routine matter. Name, Li Jing. Gender, male. Li Jing had never been to the police station, and he did not expect that the questions in the interrogation were so stupid. Since the incident had already happened, he should think about how to solve it, but now was not the time. Li Jing cooperated very well and explained various questions about his ancestors, obviously wanting to confess and get leniency. Li Jing, at around 3:20 this afternoon, you were drinking and had an argument, so you attacked 3 passers-by at the corner of Beiwa Road. Due to your brutality, the 3 victims were seriously injured, causing second-degree physical disability and major mental trauma. The attack was extremely bad, which had a huge impact. The burly policeman kept talking, but Li Jing, who was sitting on the chair, didn't listen at all. This case was not a big deal, but it was intentional injury anyway. But the process was too fast. Did he want to be convicted as soon as possible? Who hated him so much? Li Jing, the perpetrator. This confession is recorded truthfully. Do you plead guilty? I want to make a phone call. At this point, what else do you have to deny? I want to make a phone call. Li Jing, your criminal case has already constituted serious harm. I want to make a phone call. You click. The door was pushed open, and a middle-aged man with a big belly came in. After entering the room, he glanced at Li Jing and said, "Let him hit me." "Yes, Chief." The burly policeman stood up and saluted. The handcuffs were opened, and Li Jing took a mobile phone handed by the police. In front of the police, Li Jing called a friend. "Hello, who is this?" "It's me, Li Jing." "Oh, it's you, kid. What have you been up to since we haven't been in touch lately? Is this your new number?" "Dong Tsai, stop talking nonsense and help me find a lawyer. Something's wrong with me." "What?" The voice on the phone paused. "What's going on?" "Don't ask me yet. Find a lawyer and ask him to come to the Xiangyang Road police station in the new district tomorrow. As for the rest, I'll explain it to you later. Okay, I'll go find him right away, no matter what it is. Don't say anything before the lawyer comes. I heard that the police station is very corrupt now. Okay, got it? Hang up. After returning the phone to the police, Li Jing sat on the chair and said nothing. No matter how the police threatened and lured him, Li Jing kept silent. He only said one thing, that is, wait until the lawyer comes. The police had no choice but to wait until the lawyer comes tomorrow. With sufficient evidence and testimony, it was expected that Li Jing would never be able to turn things around. Even if he waited one more day, the lawyer would come and the result would be the same. Li Jing was detained in a small room. After the police left, Li Jing finally opened his eyes again, but the cold light emanating from them made people shudder. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 62, Nighttime Hospital. P.S. Thanks to New Power for the 588 reward. Muah. The previous call was to an old classmate who also went to school in Suzhou. Li Jing had always had a good relationship with him in high school. It was not until they separated in college that the two of them had less contact, but they did not lose contact. During this call, Li Jing did not care whether the lawyer would come or not. This was just a way to delay time. Li Jing still believed in relying on himself for everything. As the evening approached, the time was getting later and later, until the police officers in the police station went home one after another, leaving only a few police officers on duty. Dong Dong tilde Li Jing knocked on the door. The police officer guarding outside frowned and shouted through the door, "Boy, what are you doing?" "I want to go to the toilet." "You are a troublemaker," the police officer muttered and took out the key and unlocked the door. Click. As soon as the door opened, the police officer had no time to say anything. He only felt a fog in front of his eyes, and then he fell down unconscious. Li Jing reached out to catch the policeman who was about to fall, and casually threw the anesthetic spray in his hand into the space, then pulled the policeman into the room and closed the door. This anesthetic spray is about the same price as the corpse powder he used before. They are all cheap goods, but it seems to be quite effective. It is produced by the system. At least the quality is very good. The cells can be controlled at will. Li Jing changed his appearance in minutes according to the image of the unconscious policeman. The difference in body shape between the two is not very big. The supernatural power of the first level peak is enough to change such a body shape. After changing into the policeman's clothes, Li Jing picked up the key on the ground and went out. The anesthetic spray is very effective. If no one cares, then the policeman can sleep well all night. Although it is not difficult to get out of the police station, Li Jing does not want to be wanted by the state organs for such a small matter. Even if he does not think about himself, Li Jing has to think about his parents. Li Jing walked around the police station twice with the face of a policeman. The archive room is very conspicuous, and this case just happened today. Li Jing searched for a few times and found the information he wanted. After saying hello to his police colleagues, Li Jing left the police station, took a taxi, and headed straight to Yongkang Private Affiliated Hospital. The gangsters were being treated in this hospital. What second-class disability? Li Jing had done it himself, and he knew very well that it was impossible for it to be so serious. As long as they had enough time for treatment and recuperation, all three of them could recover as before, without any problems. The vehicle was moving, and the distance was not far. Li Jing paid and got off the car, and walked into the hospital gate. Without asking anyone, he went directly to the second floor. The ward numbers of the three gangsters had been recorded in the file. "Hey, Brother Li, why are you here?" Li Jing smiled at a policeman guarding the corridor and replied, "Oh, the chief told me to come over to ask some questions." "What happened? Is the victim okay?" "They're all fine now. That guy was really cruel. One of them broke 4 ribs, another one broke 3, and the last one, even after healed, his legs and feet probably won't be as flexible as before." The policeman in the corridor was not very old, and he was very respectful to Li Jing, who was wearing someone else's face. He led Li Jing all the way and sent him to the door of the ward. Yeah, that's a heavy blow. Li Jing nodded, then changed the subject and said, I'll go in and finish what the director asked me to do first. Go buy me some food. I haven't eaten tonight. Brother Li, it's so late and you haven't eaten yet? The young policeman took back his hand that was pushing the door and said, Okay, I'll go out and buy it for you. You go ahead and do your work. Come out to eat later. Li Jing nodded and agreed with a smile. Seeing the young policeman turn around and leave, Li Jing pushed open the door of the ward and walked in. The ward was not big, with only 2 beds. Curly and another gangster were lying on the bed and not sleeping. Instead, they squinted their eyes and groaned in pain. Nurse, the anesthetic has worn off. Give me another shot. I can't take it anymore. It hurts too much. Ouch, ouch. Curly heard someone coming in and thought it was the nurse who was taking care of him. Nurse, it seems that you have forgotten me. A familiar voice, a devilish voice. Curly's eyes immediately widened, and his pupils suddenly shrank. Obviously the fear in his heart has reached its peak. Is it you? Li Jing, who had changed back to his own appearance, smiled slightly and said, It seems that you still remember me, but it's a pity that you seem to have forgotten what I told you. Don't let me come to you in person, otherwise, brother, it's none of my business. This is all the work of Lin Sainer, and I advised him. It's really none of my business, brother. Curly dragged his body and moved his position on the bed. Fearing that Li Jing would not believe it, he quickly called on the trembling young man on the other bed to help him prove it. Brother, what Brother Jun said is true. It has nothing to do with us. It's all Lin Sainer's fault. Lin San? Who is he? Seeing that Li Jing seemed to believe it, Curly Hair hurriedly explained. Brother, Lin Sainer is the one whose leg was broken by you. His real name is Lin Hoa and he is the 3rd child in the family, so we call him Lin Sainer. Go on. Okay. Lin Sainer is Wang Shugo's brother-in-law. The last time he caused trouble for you, it was Wang Shugo who contacted him and found us. This time Lin Sainer was seriously injured. When his sister found out, she would not let you go no matter what. So, Lin Sainer's sister asked Wang Shugo to cause trouble for you again. Curly Hair pointed to the brothers in distress next to him and continued. We brothers didn't get involved. Not only that, brother, we also advised them, but unfortunately they didn't listen at all. Li Jing nodded slightly. Whereas Lin Sainer now? In the ward next to the orthopedics on the 3rd floor. That is a single room his sister found specifically for him. Li Jing nodded slightly and said in a cold voice, Tomorrow, go and tell the police to close the case privately. You have already wasted a lot of my time. Don't let me come to you again. Otherwise, you can go to the morgue to recuperate. Yes, brother, we will do it tomorrow. Brother, don't worry. We will definitely let them drop the case. Juan Mao and his brother made repeated assurances. If they were not unable to get out of bed, they would probably bow and kneel to make Li Jing believe them. Li Jing did not reply and turned to leave the ward. It was already around 10 o'clock in the evening, and the hospital was much quieter. Li Jing found an empty bathroom, changed out of his police uniform, put on a suit, and changed into a stranger's appearance. After coming out, Li Jing went directly to the 3rd floor with this ordinary appearance. There were not many wards on the 3rd floor, and it was easy to find Lin San's ward. There was no police guarding here. It seemed that because Li Jing had been arrested, the police officer left in the hospital was just for show. Chapter 63, Acquittal. Li Jing pushed the door open and walked in. This single room was indeed much better than the double room downstairs. It was clean and bright, and it also had a separate bathroom. Who are you looking for? Did you enter the wrong room? The person asking the question was a woman in her 30s, quite pretty. Li Jing looked at Lin San sleeping on the bed, and then looked at the woman who was talking. It seemed that this was Lin San's sister. He didn't expect that this woman loved Lin San so much and was still guarding here so late. Hey, why are you like this? I'm asking you a question. Let go. Li Jing grabbed the woman's neck with one hand, and with a little force, Lin San's sister was lifted up, and she was stuck so hard that she couldn't breathe. In just a few seconds, Lin San's sister's limbs became weaker and weaker. Not to mention calling for help, it was hard to say whether she could survive in a while. You are quite capable. You have caused me trouble time and again, and you want to put me in jail. Lin San's sister's face flushed, and she couldn't say a word. She was not stupid. She had already heard who Li Jing was from his words, but she had never seen Li Jing's appearance, and she couldn't figure it out. Shouldn't Li Jing be in the police station? Why did he run to the hospital? Did he attack the police and escape from prison? Humphrey, bang! Li Jing snorted coldly and threw the woman who was about to suffocate to Lin San's bed. Lin San's sister and brother both cried out in pain, and the infusion bottle on the shelf beside the bed was knocked to the ground and smashed to pieces. Sister, get up quickly. You pressed my leg. Hurry up, it hurts me to death. Hissed Lin San, who had just woken up, couldn't see the situation clearly, and the pain in his legs kept stimulating his nerves, so he had no time to care about anything else. Lin San, it seems that you are in good spirits. Lin San was stunned when he heard this. He looked up and saw that he didn't recognize the person in front of him. Who are you? Humphrey. Li Jing's expression was cold, and he said, Lin San, open your eyes in your next life. Who are you? Get out of here. Lin San felt that the person in front of him was a psychopath. He was in so much pain, and this person was still talking nonsense. Unfortunately, Li Jing didn't want to waste time anymore. With this time, he might as well practice chakra or do more life-saving work. Without hesitation, Li Jing reached out and took out the anesthetic spray in the space. Squish! Lin San was already sleepy in the midst of smoke, and even his sister was no exception. After both of them fell asleep, Li Jing took out a bottle of poison from the space. The poison was in pill form, colorless and tasteless, and melted in the mouth. Li Jing opened the mouths of the two and fed each of them one pill. It didn't matter if he had a conscience or not. Compared with this, Li Jing still hated the troublesome things that were dragged on. He would never delay the problems that could be solved at one time. After 3 seconds, Li Jing turned around and left the room with this ordinary stranger's face. The only two people who knew that Li Jing had been there were the curly-haired young man. If he didn't need them to change their confessions and withdraw the case, Li Jing would have wanted to solve them all at once. But it didn't matter. I don't think they dared to talk nonsense in front of the police. After leaving the hospital, Li Jing found a place to change into the original policeman's appearance, took a taxi directly back to the police station, said hello to the police on duty, and Li Jing staggered back to the small room where he was detained. The policeman who was anesthetic had no signs of waking up in the room. After changing the policeman's clothes back, Li Jing took out a few bottles of white wine and fed them to the policeman one by one. Then he printed the policeman's fingerprints on the bottles and threw the man and the bottles out of the room together. The policeman will not wake up in a short time. When he wakes up, the case of wounding people should be withdrawn. At that time, the police station can only start from the strange face captured in the surveillance video to investigate the murder case in the hospital. Unfortunately, it has nothing to do with Li Jing who got away with it. Even if someone finds something wrong, there will not be enough evidence to arrest Li Jing. Li Jing knows that his actions tonight were too hasty. He did not cover up in front of Juan Mao and others. Moreover, the unconscious policeman will definitely feel something is wrong after waking up, but it doesn't matter. The law is about evidence. The murderer is the stranger. No one can believe that the supernatural power of changing appearance in science fiction movies will really appear in real life. Nothing happened in the small room overnight, but it was different outside the police station. The body was found in the hospital and the police station also locked the strange suspect after checking the video. As for the police who went to the hospital in the evening, the police station also sent people to investigate and inquire about the situation. Unfortunately, the policeman was still hungover because he drank too much. As soon as the sun rose, Li Jing was taken out. Because the victim was suddenly murdered, Li Jing's case had to be put aside for the time being. The police station then entered another larger criminal case. Although the two cases seemed to be quite related, and Li Jing was also suspected of hiring a killer, he stayed at the police station all night and had no contact with the outside world. Therefore, without sufficient evidence, the police station could only focus all its attention on the murderer recorded by the surveillance camera. Not long after, Juan Mao and others notified the police station and asked them to withdraw the criminal responsibility of Li Jing and then change it to a private settlement with compensation. Li Jing's high school classmate also rushed to the police station with a lawyer. The lawyer's professional ability was very strong. He appealed to the police station for insufficient evidence and inaccurate testimony. In addition, the victim requested to withdraw the case and settle it privately. It was not until nearly noon that the police station was not allowed to detain the suspect for too long due to insufficient evidence. Li Jing paid the fine and walked out of the police station leisurely. It's really easy to get in, but hard to get out. Li Jing looked back at the entrance of the police station. He didn't want to go in again. Li Jing's high school classmate was named Ding Mo, a handsome young man in his 20s. The lawyer had to leave first, so Ding Mo sent him away, turned around and looked at Li Jing with contempt. Okay, what are you still looking at? Haven't you stayed long enough? Do you want to stay in for the night? Li Jing turned his head and said, I haven't seen you for a while, and you've become a lot bolder. How dare you say that to me? Your big brother. What big brother? You're such a nobody. I don't even want you to be my little brother. TSK. Li Jing curled his lips and said, You're dreaming. Okay, let's not talk about this. Let's find a place to have a drink. First, to welcome you back, and second, to celebrate our meeting again. After all, we haven't had a drink together for almost half a year. Chapter 64 Lin Family. Li Jing nodded. Okay, you decide where to go. Let's go. Ding Mo shook the car keys in his hand and led the way to the parking space. Tell me about your great achievements later, so that I can also learn how you ended up in the police station and the small dark room. Go away. You treat me to dinner today. Hey, I'm here to help, and you haven't paid the lawyer's fees yet. You still want me to treat you? You're the one driving. If you don't treat me, are you going to eat at my feet? Fuck. There's no reason to talk, right? Whatever. It's your treat anyway. The two of them played and joked along the way, and drove away. When they arrived at the parking space, Li Jing felt relieved, but it was a pity that things were not going well with Wang Shugo in the police station. In the director's office of the Sioux City New District Police Department branch, the plump, fat-faced director had just sent off Wang Shugo, a family member of the victim, and before his ears could calm down, another fly came around and buzzed. Uncle, have you ever been to police school? Can't you see through such a simple deduction? The man named Li Jing is obviously a major suspect. Okay, just think about it. Li Jing was arrested and the victim died. The victim died and the remaining two withdrew their charges and asked for a private settlement. This series of events is too coincidental, isn't it? Even novels don't have such bloody stories. Okay. The fat-faced director felt like his head was about to explode. The corners of his mouth twitched as he begged, Ming, can you please let Uncle go? You've only been in the bureau for a few days. This case is not something you can get involved in. If you keep messing around, I'll tell your father when I get back. TSK. Uncle, you're like a rat when you see my dad, and you turn into a rat when you encounter a murder case. Uncle, you're afraid, but I, Zhang Mingming, am not. You're messing around, the fat-faced director said with a stern face. Mingming, you are a girl. Look at yourself. How can you look like a girl now? You are not allowed to touch this case, or I will tell your mother. Zhang Mingming wanted to say something, but when she heard that her mother was brought up, she immediately lost her spirit like a deflated ball. She looked at her own dress, with short hair and a police uniform, and she really didn't look like a girl. How long has it been? It seems that it has been several years since I grew long hair. Since that incident a few years ago, I have never grown long hair again. Thinking back to the past, Zhang Mingming's face became much darker, and even her unique beautiful face no longer had the radiant feeling before. Mingming, the director patted Zhang Mingming's shoulder gently and said, don't think too much. This case is not simple. Uncle is not afraid that something will happen to you and he can't explain it to your parents. When you applied for the police academy, your uncle patted his chest and promised your father. Besides, you are my only precious niece. Uncle can't bear to let you touch those brutal and murderous criminal cases. You should stay in the bureau and work as a clerk. Okay, Humphrey. Zhang Mingming slapped the director's hand away. Too lazy to say another word, turned around and walked out of the director's office. "If you don't let me touch it, can't I investigate it myself? It's not that easy for me to give up." Thinking of the tragedy that happened a few years ago, Jiang Mingming clenched his fists, and his heart became more determined. From that moment on, he cut his long hair and kept short hair. From that moment on, he was determined to become a policeman, to arrest the most heinous criminals in the world, to find clues to that incident, and to avenge you. Just wait. Yangtze, in the Bishuiyaju Villa district, in a luxurious courtyard built against the mountain, there were several people sitting in the house at this time, but Wang Shugo did not have the style of a manager at all, and could only stand timidly at the bottom and answer every question. "You mean the guy who beat people was arrested yesterday, and Zining's brother and sister were killed at night?" "Brother-in-law, yes." The middle-aged man sitting on the sofa next to him nodded slightly. "He was Lin Zhen, the eldest brother of the brother and sister who died in the hospital. He was in his 30s, tall and slender, dressed in a decent suit, and was the deputy general manager of his own Lin Group company." Lin Zhen thought for a moment, then turned to look at an old man sitting in the first seat. "Dad, I told you that Mom spoiled them too much. Instead of being a rich girl, she married a loser." As Lin Zhen spoke, he glanced at Wang Shugo who was standing below him, and continued, "She had a good life but insisted on hanging out with little bitches. She said she wanted to make a name for herself in the world, but now she's in trouble." "Enough." The old man in the first seat frowned and shouted coldly, "No matter how useless they are still your brothers and sisters. Didn't the murderer's appearance get recorded? Check it for me. He killed my Lin family's descendants. I want him to regret coming into this world." "Humphrey!" Bang! The old man was filled with hatred and slammed the armrest hard. "Dad, don't worry. As the eldest brother, I will definitely avenge Xiahua and the others." "Humphrey, the old man is already over 60 years old. He had a difficult time starting his business, so he had children late. After they had children, the old couple spoiled them too much. So except for the eldest son Lin Zhen, who was somewhat capable of taking care of the family, the second son Lin Ning and the third son Lin Hua were not obedient children who took care of the family." The old man stood up, pushed away the people who came to help him, and turned to the study. The study is a place for the old man to calm down, once he is worried and can't make up his mind. The old man usually stays here for a long time, but this time, it is estimated that the old man will find it difficult to get over the hurdle in his heart. "Wang Shugo, when you married Zining, how did you swear to my dad? Have you forgotten it?" "Brother-in-law, I didn't expect this to happen." Wang Shugo's face was pale, and he was terrified. He knew the power of the Lin family best. Even his manager position was obtained by the Lin family. "You can't escape Zining's matter. And you even dared to assign Xiahua to help you beat people up. Do you think my Lin family is your thugs, huh?" Lin Zhen became more and more angry as he spoke. He grabbed a cup from the tea table and smashed it. Bang! Crash! Ah! Hiss! Wang Shugo covered his bleeding head and said in panic, "Brother-in-law, it wasn't me who found Xiahua. It was Xiahua who found me. He asked me to arrange someone for him to practice with, so I found him a college student who was easy to bully, who knew so many things would happen later." "Humphrey!" Lin Zhen suppressed his anger. Judging from Lin Hua's fucked-up personality, this might really be the case, but it didn't matter anymore. If something happened, no one could get away with it. Chapter 65 A New Journey. "Just pray that I catch the murderer as soon as possible and avenge Ning and the others, otherwise, you will never have a good life." "Yes, yes, yes." Wang Shugo nodded and agreed. "Also, the guy who broke Ahu's leg can't be let go just like that. I want to make him taste the taste of living a life worse than death." "Humphrey!" "Yes, brother-in-law, leave this matter to me. I have to contribute to Ahu's sister and brother's affairs, otherwise how can I be worthy of the dead Ning?" "Humphrey, that sounds good, but if it goes wrong again, you might as well go down and accompany them." "No, no. I will make that kid pay the price he deserves." Wang Shugo's face was ferocious. He felt that the cause of everything came from Li Jing, the damn kid. Without his appearance, things would not have come to this point today. Someone in the Lin family died, and his wife was gone. His future backer was also cut off, not to mention the way to make money. Maybe even the position of manager might not be guaranteed. If you don't let me live a good life, you will never have a good life. Apostrophe Wang Shugo burst out with hatred, while Li Jing had just finished drinking with Ding Mo. The two parted ways at the entrance of the hotel, and Li Jing took a taxi back to his residence. Ding Mo was still easy to deal with. Li Jing simply made some excuses for offending the gangsters and blocked them back. As for the rest, he didn't mention anything at all. Hoteled back at his residence, Li Jing lay on his bed. The occurrence of this incident was also attributed to his own change of mentality. He obviously didn't take human life seriously, otherwise he wouldn't have hit so hard. After hitting, he wanted to kill people once and for all. This style of doing things may be fine in troubled times, but it doesn't work in today's rule of law society. Unless he wants to be a wanted criminal, something will happen sooner or later. After drinking, although he didn't get drunk, he still fell asleep on the bed after thinking about it for a while. When he woke up again, it was around 9 o'clock in the evening. Li Jing rubbed his eyes, got up from the bed, and wanted to find something to eat. Suddenly, Li Jing frowned. The residence here was very remote, and there were not many families living around. But how could there be strange vehicles parked here? 1, 2, 3 cars. Li Jing's five senses were well developed and his perception was sharp, at least dozens of times that of ordinary people. It felt that the people in the 3 cars around were not together, but were divided into 3 directions to monitor this residence. Is it the police, or someone else, or all of them? Li Jing thought for a while, and soon ignored it again. Whatever happened, as long as it was not a blatant arrest, a few ordinary people alone would not pose any threat. Damn it! Jiang Mingming took a bite of the bread in his hand, and his small nose couldn't help but inhale the aroma wafting from the window not far away. He was still cooking so late, and his cooking skills looked good. Damn it! What was he thinking? This criminal ate hot food and let me eat bread outside. Damn it! It's simply unforgivable. She came here to spy on him privately, and the bureau didn't know about it at all. Jiang Mingming thought very clearly that Li Jing must have a big secret that he couldn't tell, otherwise the death in the hospital would be too coincidental. Judging from the time, Li Jing has the highest probability of hiring a killer to kill someone, and in the afternoon, Jiang Mingming had already gone to the hospital to record a confession with Juan Mao again. Juan Mao was obviously a little vague about the murder, which was linked to his request to withdraw the lawsuit immediately after the death. So Li Jing became more suspicious. Jiang Mingming didn't know that there were 2 other people monitoring Li Jing with her. One was the police who were secretly investigating the situation, and the other was Wang Shugo who sent people over. Li Jing in the house knew everything outside, but he didn't care about it at all. He only blamed himself for being so impatient and leaving so many clues. Otherwise this situation would not have happened. For him who was responsible for the system, it would be inevitable that he would be restricted in doing things in the future. Time passed. More than 20 days passed. Li Jing did not leave the house. Everything she wanted was bought online, which made the people who were following her feel like a dog biting a hedgehog, unable to bite where to start. The police station's personnel were replaced in waves, and Wang Shugo's men were discovered by the police and had to temporarily retreat and no longer appear. As for Jiang Mingming, who was alone, she had become much more haggard after a period of time. She went to work at the police station during the day and stayed in the car overnight to follow the police. It was a good thing that she was not exhausted to death. Really persistent. Li Jing smiled slightly. He had long discovered that Jiang Mingming and the police were not in the same group, but came alone. Li Jing really didn't know how to describe this girl who was like a cowhide plaster. The time had come to October 23rd. In 3 days, it would be the deadline for time travel again. Unfortunately, this time Li Jing was not going to wait any longer. He wanted to take the initiative. In the study, the tattoo space had been connected to the time and space system. Enter. Swish. The study was empty, and Li Jing had already appeared in the silver space inside the system. Butler, I want to enter in advance this time. Okay, sir, please wait. Just like last time, the wide door appeared again. Li Jing had already asked the butler. It turned out that this door was also divided into levels, corresponding to different levels of universe and time and space. from the lowest level white to the highest level black, a total of 9 levels. "Sir, I wish you good luck." "Thank you," Li Jing responded, turned around and walked directly to the already opened door. The starlight universe scene inside the door remained unchanged, and it was hazy and unclear. Li Jing walked closer and felt the unique huge life breath of the white door again. Who tilde one step forward, the world is within reach. In a trance, time and space changed. Da tilde boom boom tilde a tilde quick. Quick request for support. Request for support. Li Jing shook his dizzy head and dodged to lean against a bunker. What was going on? The place in front of him looked like a military base, and the people who were engaged in fierce gun battles were all white people. What was the system doing? Why did it send me to such a place? I was almost about to run into someone's gun. The tattoo space hadn't transmitted any messages yet, so it should take some time. Tilde boom tilde. The battle was getting more and more intense. The weapons used by these white people were at least 50 years ahead of the Earth, and there were also several weirdos wearing steel masks using pulse-type weapons and equipment. They looked familiar. The more Li Jing looked at these masked men, the more familiar they felt, as if he had seen them somewhere before. Unfortunately, before he could remember, the masked men not far away had already discovered his presence. Chapter 66, Special Forces. Buzz. The weapon charged, and a blue wave visible to the naked eye suddenly rushed towards Li Jing. Boom tilde. Li Jing dodged, but was still hit by the strong shock wave and was thrown more than 10 meters away. Poo tilde. Concrete blocks flew across, smoke filled the air, and Li Jing climbed up with a dusty face. He was not injured, but it was too unpleasant to be attacked inexplicably just after coming here. Li Jing's eyes turned cold, and the tang sword in the space automatically grasped in the palm of his hand. Swish. The sharp sword was unsheathed, and Li Jing took advantage of the smoke to move sideways and quickly approached the masked man. Swish tilde. A horizontal cut with a knife, sparks flew everywhere, and the masked man behind Li Jing fell down. Bang. The body fell to the ground, and the whole head was thrown out for a distance, and blood suddenly spurted out from the empty neck at this time. Huh? Li Jing paused, turned around and slashed. Dang tilde. The sharp blades collided, and Li Jing also saw the attacker clearly. He was dressed in white ninja clothes, and although his appearance was obscured, Li Jing still recognized him at a glance. White Ghost. Dang tilde. Li Jing was answered by a series of attacks. White Ghost's sword skills were extremely fast and powerful, but according to Li Jing, they were not good enough. Dang tilde. Li Jing's sword skills turned and cut horizontally, doubling the power. Dang tilde. White Ghost was blocked by gravity and slid a few meters away. He stood with his sword horizontally, staring at Li Jing with sharp eyes. Li Jing did not expect that this time he would be transported to the time and space of G.I. Joe. He had felt that those iron-masked men were very familiar. It turned out that they were the snake demon army of the villain Cobra. Li Jing had watched this movie several times. The Cobra gang created in the Kung Fu world can also be said to be inspired by the villain in G.I. Joe. However, he did not expect that in a blink of an eye, the counterfeit would crash into the real owner. Piracy is a crime. Li Jing curled his lips, but before he could make the next move, the White Ghost had already attacked again. Dang tilde. The long swords collided with each other, sparks flew everywhere. It was not easy to meet a master of swordsmanship. Li Jing used all the swordsmanship he had learned, both to test the White Ghost's strength and to verify the swordsmanship he had learned. Haha. Ninja? Come on. Li Jing waved. Bailing frowned, and his sword skills became more and more fierce. He came here for a mission, but he didn't expect to meet a sword master who was as skilled as himself. He couldn't waste any more time. Dang. Bailing used the rebound of the blade to accelerate in a spin, holding the knife with both hands, covering it with 100% of his strength, and slashed it fiercely. Dang tilde. Li Jing was shocked back 3 or 4 steps before he stabilized his body. He didn't expect Bailing's sword skills to be so profound. After several times of addition, his strength was more than doubled. Very good, Bailing. Today I will let you see what real ninjutsu is. Bailing didn't answer. He wanted to solve the powerful enemy in front of him as soon as possible. Otherwise Anna and the snake demon troops who came to perform the mission together might be wiped out. The two continued to fight. Bailing was anxious for the mission, and suddenly turned the blade, dodging the collision with Li Jing's tank sword, regardless of the tank sword that was cutting towards his abdomen, and stabbed Li Jing's neck. Li Jing was slightly startled, and then smiled slightly. He didn't expect that Bailing wanted to exchange his injury for his life. Unfortunately, this didn't work. Swish tilde bang, the tang sword first slashed across Bailing's abdomen, and a puff of smoke suddenly appeared in front of Bailing's eyes. The feeling transmitted by the tip of the knife was not stabbing on the human body, but more like a hard object such as wood. The smoke dissipated, and Bailing's mind was shocked. The tip of the knife stabbed into a log, but the enemy who should have been at the log position disappeared. Fire escape, great fireball technique. Bailing heard the sound of the wind behind him and felt the overwhelming heat wave. He didn't think much and rolled away on the spot. Boom! The 3-meter diameter fireball rushed down and smashed on the ground. The speed of Bailing was not slow, but half of his body was still surrounded by flames. The temperature of the fireball was extremely high. White Ghost rolled over a few times and barely suppressed the flames. When he stood up again, a large area of his white suit had been burned. This was when Li Jing held back. Otherwise, the flames fueled by chakra were not so easy to extinguish. White Ghost, ninjutsu is not limited to this level. Let's see how many more moves you can take from me. Li Jing flew forward, and his sword was as fast as the last one, and as heavy as the last one. White Ghost gritted his teeth and took every blow. At this moment, he was still shocked. The previous attack was too strange, and it didn't seem like the effect that scientific equipment could produce. Lightning released Chidori blade. White Ghost's pupils suddenly shrank like needles. He saw clearly that Li Jing was making a seal with one hand, and suddenly a few sparks appeared on the black tang sword. Swish, faster speed, dang, stronger power. The two swords collided, and White Ghost's hands were paralyzed, gradually spreading all over his body. He gritted his teeth and held the handle of the sword tightly, not daring to relax at all. He couldn't let go, otherwise he would die. Li Jing suddenly smiled, put away his sword and retreated. Bailing lost his balance, the tip of his sword dropped, and he half knelt on the ground. Bailing gasped for air. The paralysis of lightning was secondary, and it was nothing compared to the shock in his heart at the moment. He had not used his trump card for 2 points, but his goal had been achieved. Li Jing smiled slightly, looked at Bailing, who was half kneeling on the ground and gasping for air, and said, "Bailing, how about a deal?" Who are you? It doesn't matter who I am. The important thing is that we are not enemies. Bailing was stunned when he heard this, and didn't say anything else. He slowly stood up and turned around to leave. The bargaining chip is these magical ninjutsu. Bailing trembled, stopped, and said without looking back, "What do you want?" "It's very simple. I want all the technical information of Cobra." "Oh?" Bailing slowly turned around. At this time, the battles around were coming to an end, and the snake demon troops were almost all dead, but Bailing didn't seem so anxious. "Don't you think you have a big appetite?" "Haha, I don't think you care about these things. Do you know me well?" Bailing tightened his wrist holding the knife, and his sharp eyes exuded a dangerous charm again. Li Jing smiled slightly, not caring at all, and said, "This is the price. If you feel that you are at a disadvantage, you can leave. I will never stop you." Bailing did not answer, but he did not take any action. To be honest, he was really tempted. He didn't care about Cobra's information at all. He cared about ways to improve his strength. Compared with ninjutsu, other things are worthless. Being able to defeat Snake Eyes is the greatest belief of Bailing in his life. Time is not short. The battles around are about to end. Without Bailing, a powerful helper, there are only a few members of Cobra left, and the heroine Anna is also in danger at this time. Your companions are about to die. Aren't you going to help? Li Jing simply put away his knife at this time. In this underground base hundreds of meters deep, he was as leisurely as if he had nothing to do after eating and came for a walk. Chapter 67 Black Phantom. I don't have the final say over the Macallan group. You can change a condition. Haha. White Ghost, I have to say that you don't have anything worth snooping on. As long as you help me get the technical information of Cobra, I can teach you some ninjutsu during this period. How about it? Li Jing smiled slightly and added, my patience is limited. Don't test it again. White Ghost made a knife flower, inserted the knife into the scabbard behind his back, turned around and said, "Okay, let's leave here first." Li Jing's mouth moved slightly, and his feet had already followed the footsteps of White Ghost. White Ghost is a very direct person, otherwise he would not have run away from home for more than 10 years because of a misunderstanding, and he was too lazy to explain. His meaning is very clear. If you believe it, you believe it, and there is no need to explain it. The same is true for the opposite. If you don't believe it, no matter how much you explain, it is useless. Special Forces has a high technological content. Its particle technology, pulse technology, nanotechnology, electronic technology, etc. have been applied to the actual combat stage, and the construction of various armed bases is a technological integration fortress. The pulse pistol and electronic intelligent computing glasses in the hands of the heroine Anna are all high-tech armed products. At this time, Anna was fighting with the red-haired female soldier Scarlet. Scarlet was wearing an electronic invisible cloak that could make her invisible and disappear without being discovered by the enemy. It was called an invisible cloak, but in fact it relied on high-tech electronic imaging technology to synchronize the scene behind the body with the front, thus achieving the invisible effect. Anna and the other were still fighting. White Ghost drove a single soldier flying device with Li Jing. Anna knocked Scarlet to the ground with a few heavy blows, got up and jumped up to grab the other side of the single soldier flying device. The shape of the flying device was like a small rocket launcher. Its power was limited, but it could still carry the weight of 3 people for a short time. Time was no longer wasted. Anna grabbed the box with nano warheads on the ground, and the 3 of them were ready to fly directly away from this underground base. A few hundred meters deep underground in the base, a straight and wide vertical passage had been opened long before White Ghost entered. In the chaotic fighting and sneak attack, the Special Forces had just had time to close the passage. The aircraft went straight up, carrying the 3 people when the base was about to be sealed, and flew out of the ground safely. There was already a Cobra plane waiting outside the base. The aircraft landed in the rear cabin of the plane, accelerated forward, and quickly left the military base. Who is he? The situation was urgent before, and Anna had a lot of questions in her mind. She asked as soon as she entered the plane. He is, I am White Ghost's senior brother, Black Ghost. Hello beautiful lady. Li Jing stepped forward and interrupted White Ghost. White Ghost was stunned, and Anna was also stunned. Black Ghost? Anna asked with a smile. Yes, this is a nickname I gave myself. Of course, my real name is not this. What? Are you interested, beautiful lady? I don't care what your name is, but as far as I know, White Ghost doesn't have any senior brother. Besides, even if there is, he is his mortal enemy, right? Black Ghost. Anna sneered and took a step forward to get close to Li Jing's face. Don't treat people as idiots. Her last word Black Ghost is even more ironic. Whether I am his senior brother or not, it's up to him to decide, isn't it? Beautiful lady. Li Jing looked at Anna who was approaching, and did not flinch and followed her to look directly into her eyes. The distance between their faces was no more than a few centimeters. Don't say that. Anna is still very beautiful. White Ghost, what do you mean? Anna took a step back and asked the somewhat dazed White Ghost. White Ghost's eyelids twitched before he replied, I guess so. Ignoring the White Ghost who was not very good at lying, Li Jing raised his eyebrows at Anna like a villain. Anna snorted coldly and turned to the front of the cabin. Bailing followed him, and when he passed by Li Jing, he suddenly stopped, leaned close to Li Jing's ear, and whispered, Don't forget your promise, my senior brother. Bailing's voice was even cold. The word senior brother reminded him of Snake Eyes, a modern enemy who was not a brother but was more like a brother, but had many misunderstandings. Haha, each of us takes what we need. If you feel regretful, you can terminate the transaction at any time. Bailing did not speak, but turned and walked into the front of the cabin. Li Jing frowned on the spot, and his face turned cold. He was never a good person to talk to. He dared to admit to anyone that he was selfish. He only cared about protecting his loved ones and friends. As for others, he didn't care whether they were dead or alive. Suddenly, the tattoo space was slightly hot, and then began to convey information. Time and space, the world of special forces. Time, 2013 AD. Location, Earth, Egypt. Historical plot. The McAllen Group raised funds to establish the Cobra terrorist organization. It took 10 years to research the nano-devouring worms and used €13 billion to make 4 nano-worm warheads. This nano-worm can devour everything and eat steel at an extremely fast speed. If it is not stopped, the nano-worm can directly destroy a city. Cobra wants to use this warhead to create terrorist attacks in order to achieve the goal of ruling the world. The first action of Cobra is aimed at the Eiffel Tower in France. In order to stop all these conspiracies, the special forces fought a desperate battle with Cobra. Return conditions, change history. Li Jing frowned. He never thought that the system would throw him directly into the time period where the plot had already started, leaving him no time to prepare. Moreover, he was teleported to the Special Forces lair before. If he didn't happen to catch up with Cobra to snatch the warhead, would he have to face the siege of the entire Special Forces alone? People are often like this. If you are given $100 every day for free, after a long time, you will think that you deserve it. If you don't get it or give less one day, you will feel that you have suffered a loss. The same is true for System Shuttle. No one has a hard rule that entering time and space must be safe. Li Jing thought for a moment and understood the simple truth. Just now, he was just in the game and not the only one. It seems that the unintentional improvement of his state of mind last time is still very beneficial. At least he will not think too formally. The plane is not slow, and it is heading directly to Paris, France. Anna and Bailing are talking to the big boss Cameron in the front cabin. The holographic image transmission technology used is very high-end and advanced. Li Jing was impressed by it when he watched the movie. There is no intention of entering the front cabin to disturb him. Li Jing sat directly on the seat in the back cabin to rest. More than 10 hours later, the sky was already bright, the destination was about to be reached, and the plane slowly began to slow down. Chapter 68 Road Chase. The plane did not land. Anna and White Ghost came to the rear cabin again. The rear cabin door was opened. Anna and others were ready to airdrop and land. Wu told that the wind was very strong. Anna was ready to jump down. She suddenly turned her head and looked at Li Jing, who was sitting still, and said, "Hey, brother, won't you help?" Li Jing smiled slightly and said, "Of course I have to help. I have to keep an eye on my brother. His luck has never been very good." Anna curled her lips and jumped. Li Jing stood up and followed closely behind her, landing on the ground along the rope. Even if Anna didn't mention it before, Li Jing would automatically follow. White Ghost was his stepping stone to enter Cobra. Without White Ghost, Li Jing would have to spend more effort, and the result would inevitably miss many opportunities and good shows. Li Jing couldn't say how to describe Bailing. Let's put his personality aside. In the movie, this kid is just unlucky. He was seriously injured several times and was arrested several times. In the end, he was even simply turned against the decent faction. I don't know where his position is. He is just a miserable young man. Li Jing shook his head. It seems that he has to change his job and play a temporary guest role as a nanny. At least before he enters the interior of Cobra, Bailing can't have any problems. Anna, Bailing, Li Jing, and 2 black soldiers landed and got on a Hummer that had been prepared long ago. The vehicle drove all the way to the laboratory building of Anna's current husband. Anna's husband is named Daniel. He is a baron and a scientific researcher. The laboratory he created is studying particle acceleration technology that can activate nano-worm warheads. It's not that the McAllen Group can't activate the warheads themselves, but the target of this mission is the Eiffel Tower in Paris, France. So using this laboratory to activate the warheads is just a problem that can be solved along the way. The 5 people got off the car and went directly into the lobby of the laboratory building. "Do you want to register or should I?" Shua tilde Anna was answered by a few alloy square darts. Bailing directly used the most violent means to solve the problem. The several security guards in the hall had no time to do anything, and they all fell to the ground with darts on their heads. Anna raised the corner of her mouth and led the way upstairs without comment. Li Jing followed them leisurely, with no interest in these trivial matters. Click. The door of the laboratory was opened, and Bailing entered first with a box containing nano-worm warheads, followed by Anna and Li Jing. Anna, Daniel was stunned when he saw the newcomers and asked, "Why are you here?" Bailing put the box directly on the table, and many experimental equipment were squeezed to the ground and smashed to pieces. "Hey, what are you doing?" "Anna, who are these two people?" Daniel pointed at Bailing and Li Jing. Just by looking at their clothes, he knew that they were not good people. Anna smiled and said, "My dear, you'd better cooperate, otherwise I can't guarantee that something you don't want to see will happen here." As if to verify what Anna said, White Ghost casually threw a dart and killed a researcher to the ground. You ignoring the situation of Anna and the others activating the warheads. Li Jing casually grabbed a researcher and asked him to copy the technical information of this laboratory. Particle acceleration technology is not used now, but it does not mean that it will not be used in the future. It is not Li Jing's style to return empty-handed. Particle acceleration technology has a wide range of applications and has a great role in promoting various fields such as industry, agriculture, and medicine. Under the threat of human life, Daniel could only obey the order and start the particle accelerator to activate the 4 nanoworm warheads one by one. Unfortunately, after the matter was over, Daniel was stabbed to death by White Ghost from the back while kissing Anna. "I said, if I see him touch you again, I will kill him." White Ghost retracted the sharp blade that popped out of his wrist, and his voice was cold. "I know." Anna smiled casually without caring. Bailing was stunned for a moment, then turned away. He turned a blind eye to what Li Jing did, but Anna was different. After dealing with her husband, she turned her spearhead to Li Jing, who had just copied the data. "Hey, are you taking advantage of me? Well, you can understand it this way." Li Jing waved his hand and walked out of the laboratory leisurely. Anna inexplicably felt a surge of evil fire rushing to her head. She reached out to adjust her glasses to black and turned around to keep up with the pace of the crowd. After leaving the building, Li Jing and the other 5 were about to get in the car. Suddenly, a special forces team appeared not far away. Anna and the others sped up. The black-clad soldier was about to sit in the driving position, and Li Jing stepped forward to stop him. "Anna, you'd better drive." "Shit." Without asking more questions, Anna squeezed through the crowd and sat in the driving seat. The car started and accelerated rapidly. Li Jing, who was sitting in the back seat, had already seen Snake Eyes from the special forces catching up. The Hummer they were sitting in had been modified throughout. It was not only fireproof and bulletproof, but also equipped with a shovel head and various high-tech weapons. The road was bumpy, and ordinary vehicles on the road were hit by the Hummer and turned over. Bang! Passing a bridge, Snake Eyes jumped off the bridge and jumped onto the roof of the Hummer. It was impossible to shoot the roof with guns inside the car. The high-tech equipment of the Special Forces was not bad at all. 2 acceleration armors rushed over from the back of the Hummer. The people wearing the mecha suits were the male protagonist Duke and his friend Rappel. Rappel was just his nickname, and his real name was Hauser, a captain. The acceleration suit was powerful. Its full name was Delta 6 Acceleration Suit. It had hydraulics from head to toe and gas mechanics equipment under high air tightness. It had an enhanced intelligent control display helmet. It was connected to the suit. It moved as people thought. It was very smart. The weapons equipped in the acceleration suit were also luxurious, including dual-control gas-propelled hook guns and triple explosive, heat-conducting, fire-and-forget missiles, plus a 10mm shellless Gatling machine gun that fired 50 rounds per minute, with full self-contained firepower. Snake Eyes was on the roof. Duke and the other 2 were chasing closely behind, and the red-haired female soldier Scarlet also sped up on her motorcycle and caught up. Anna called out the shovel-head device of the Hummer, wanting to use the shoveled cart to knock Snake Eyes off. Li Jing, who was sitting in the back seat, frowned and shook his head. It was a good idea, but it was a pity that it didn't work at all. Snake Eyes' force value was very high, even stronger than the White Ghost. He turned sideways on the roof, jumped a few times, and dodged all the flying cars with his flexible body. Da tilde bang 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 tilde. Duke and the other 2 had already shot at the Hummer. The Special Forces had already discovered that Anna and the others' target was the Eiffel Tower in the distance. Bang bang tilde. Snake Eyes also shot at the roof, and the bullets hit a position continuously, and the roof armor became thinner and thinner. Snake Eyes drew out a long knife and suddenly stabbed with both hands. Swish tilde the roof was pierced by a knife, and the entire blade penetrated deep into the car. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 69, Battle Escalation. P.S. Thanks to and another book friend for the reward. Today's 3 updates are finished. I feel a little nauseous today. I don't know what I ate. Li Jing's eyelids jumped, and the black and white blade appeared in front of him. He cursed inwardly, and Li Jing gathered strength in his right arm, and directly punched the blade. With a crisp sound, the blade of the Lannian clan, which was said to never break, was immediately broken into 2 by gravity. This knife is of excellent quality. Maybe it will never break when it is chopped, but from the side, even the best blade is still an ordinary weapon and can't withstand the heavy blow of several tons of force. Since exchanging 1,000 points for sus material, Li Jing has practiced for nearly a month. The cell control ability has just entered the door of the 2nd level ability. The strength of more than 2,000 kilograms in one hand before has more than doubled. When the 2nd level ability is completely stable, his own strength will definitely increase a lot. Snake Eyes' sharp knife was broken, and Beiling, who was sitting next to Li Jing, was shocked. In terms of honor, Beiling valued it more than Snake Eyes. Although it was not his own knife, it came from the same place. Beiling's eyes changed again when he looked at Li Jing. Snake Eyes on the roof of the car was also a little bit unbelievable at this time. To him, this was not an ordinary knife. It was more of a sacred sense of mission. If the knife was broken, the man would be almost decadent even if he didn't die. Snake Eyes was stunned, and the Hummer that turned the corner had thrown him off the roof. After rolling on the road for several times, he stood up a little confused, and his eyes were still staring at the half-broken knife in his hand. The Special Forces Communications Officer Circuit Breaker also discovered Snake Eyes' abnormality, and he called repeatedly to inquire about Snake Eyes' situation. Snake Eyes, what's wrong? What happened? Shit, will Snake Eyes talk to you? A circuit breaker, who was tracking the signal, was scolded, and he understood without saying a word. Everyone knew that Snake Eyes had not spoken since his master died. Even in an emergency, you can't expect to hear his report from the headset. Buzz tilde the Hummer vehicle is equipped with a pulse weapon. The weapon is fully charged and fired directly. Boom tilde behind the vehicle, Scarlet's motorcycle was damaged and directly torn into pieces. The parachute cord jumped and caught Scarlet, who was free falling from the high altitude steadily. Without saying a few words, the parachute cord dropped Scarlet and chased again. Duke was also unable to raise his head due to the shock wave of the pulse weapon. In addition, the Hummer occasionally fired a series of small tracking missiles. If it weren't for the acceleration suit to protect the body, several people would have been blown to pieces. Be careful of the train. Damn it tilde boom tilde oh tilde tilde tilde. The Hummer was hit in the back by a high-speed train. Li Jing only had time to curse and protect his head. Under the violent impact, the Hummer was directly knocked 7 or 8 meters high and dozens of meters away. It rolled and rubbed all the way. The violent vibration and impact made the whole car body smashed to pieces. It was horrible. Bang tilde hiss tilde. The vehicle finally landed and stopped rolling. Li Jing took a breath and shook his head. 2 finger bones of his left hand were dislocated, and his shoulder was also scratched. Bang! Li Jing kicked the scrapped door open and climbed out of the upside-down Hummer in a few steps. With a thought in his mind, the injuries on his left hand and shoulder immediately began to recover at a speed visible to the naked eye. Fuck. Li Jing couldn't help cursing again. He never thought that even if Anna was driving the car, he would still be hit by a train like in the original novel. The French were really good. Wouldn't they put up a roadblock or a warning sign at the intersection? Anna and White Ghost also crawled out of the car in a mess. Looking at the blood on their bodies, they were obviously injured. The remaining 2 black soldiers were no longer breathing in the car. Maybe this is the fate of the extras? Li Jing curled his lips. Anna didn't drive, and the extras who drove died. Now Anna is driving. but the extras who didn't drive are still dead. What's the reason? Let's not talk about Li Jing's entanglement. This place is not far from the Eiffel Tower. After getting off the car, White Ghost opened the box containing the nano-worm warheads, took out one and installed it on the launcher, and then ran towards the tall building closest to the tower. Anna picked up the box and followed closely. It seemed that neither of them had any intention of greeting Li Jing. Li Jing curled his lips, threw away the painful thoughts in his mind, and followed Anna and the others. At this time, his injuries had already recovered. If the clothes on his shoulders had not been cut, he would not look like he had been injured at all, and there was not even a trace of blood. The ability of cell control is to control cell tissues in all directions. If there is a problem in any part of the body, the cells will immediately send signals back to the brain center, and then, under the rapid reaction of nerve reflexes, they can get instructions within 1/1000th of a second to solve the problem. In other words, at the first moment of the wound, the cell tissue has already reacted to convey information, stop bleeding, and recover. Even if blood flows out, as long as it does not exceed the control range, it can be absorbed and used again. The three entered a building. In order to divert the pursuers Duke and the parachute cord, they automatically split into two groups and rushed up. The speed of the accelerated armor was too fast. Anna, who was riding the open-air elevator, ignored the safety of ordinary people and directly used machine guns to block Duke's pursuit. Bullets flew, glass splashed, and the crowd fled in chaos. But Duke, wearing an acceleration device, was not afraid of this ordinary gunpowder bullet and continued to chase. Anna casually discarded the gun that had used up all the bullets and took out the pulse pistol again. This gun was extremely powerful. As soon as the gunshot rang out, a blue shockwave visible to the naked eye suddenly fired out. Boom! The shockwave had a wide range, and Duke was hit directly before he could dodge, and was hit and flew away. Bang bang bang! Duke crushed all the way, breaking through several walls in succession, until the power disappeared. He was stuck on the outermost wall of the building, half of his body hanging outside the wall, and he almost fell down. Duke took a deep breath. It was too damn dangerous. If it weren't for the protection of armor, this shot would be enough to take his life. If the power of this shot was a little stronger, he would also fall down and end up like a meat paste. White Ghost walked up the stairs, looking for the best launch site. The power of the transmitter in his hand was limited, so he had to stand at a suitable commanding height. Li Jing followed behind leisurely, as if the tense situation in front of him had nothing to do with him at all. In his opinion, the final failure of Cobra was not without reason. The lack of talent, continuous rebellion, arrogance, and the plan with various loopholes meant that if it didn't fail, then there would be a problem. Bang! White Ghost kicked open a door. The launch site had been found. He picked up the transmitter and aimed at the Eiffel Tower outside the window. He was ready to launch. Chapter 70. Nano-worm debut. Buzz at the critical moment. The black man in the acceleration suit had already caught up with the parachute cord. He jumped up with an acceleration, just wanting to stop the White Ghost and knock it away. Bang! Whoosh! Li Jing flew up and kicked the parachute cord more than 10 meters away, flying out of the corridor, and the White Ghost also pulled the trigger at this time. The green nano-worm warhead formed a bright parabola and went straight to the Eiffel Tower. The White Ghost turned around and looked at Li Jing. His expressionless face was not a thank you at all, but Li Jing couldn't tell anyway. Bang! Whoosh! The nano-worm warhead flew directly and hit the lower half of the Eiffel Tower. A burst of green smoke spread out, and the power of the nano-worms exploded. The speed of its gnawing steel was extremely fast. There was nothing in the place where it passed. The nano-worms that spread along the steel fell on the passing cars and ate them. The scope of infection was rapidly expanding. As long as these spreading nano-worms are not turned off by remote control, they will continue to eat until a huge city is destroyed. The controller is on Anna at this time. The Cobra plane has arrived. Li Jing jumped out of the window with White Ghost and landed on the open hatch of the plane. The plane turned around and headed straight for the rooftop where Anna was. Anna jumped off the building and landed on the plane directly after crossing a distance of 3 or 4 meters. Following closely behind her was Duke, who had never given up. Anna had just entered the cabin and had not had time to stand up. Duke had already jumped over a distance of 7 or 8 meters with the help of the acceleration armor and rushed directly into the cabin. He stretched out his hand and wanted to press the nano-worm controller carried by Anna's waist. Squeak tilde a black light flashed, and Duke's outstretched palm had been pierced by a black long knife and stuck on the floor. Li Jing smiled slightly. It was time to do something to test how big the plot inertia of this time and space was. Hey, baby, I feel so sad when you scream. Anna stood up, frowned slightly and looked at Li Jing, then bent down and moved the long knife that pierced Duke's palm. Anna still had feelings for her ex-husband Duke, and the emotional entanglement between the two could be said to be tangled and tangled. However, Anna, who had been injected with the nano-worm solution, had changed her temperament a lot, and even her life was controlled by others. Li Jing had his own intentions for doing this. As for the destruction of the world and human casualties, he didn't care, as long as he and his relatives were safe. He didn't care whether outsiders were dead or alive. Selfishness was selfishness, and there was no need to make excuses. With Li Jing's interference, the nano-worms were still gnawing. The Eiffel Tower was already shaky and about to collapse, and the surrounding area of the tower was also affected and suffered heavy losses. The expansion of the nano-worms was very rapid and had spread to a radius of several kilometers. If it was not stopped, it would not be long before Paris, France, would cease to exist. Anna, Duke suddenly shouted, I know you hate me. I'm sorry, I apologize to you, but do you really want to watch this city being destroyed? Taking a deep breath, Duke ignored the pain in his hand and looked into Anna's eyes and begged again and again. My Duke, do you want to be a savior? Unfortunately, you don't look like one at all. Anna smiled slightly, bent down and touched Duke's face, her tone full of sarcasm. I'm not a savior, I'm just an ordinary person. Anna, an ordinary person who loves you. Li Jing shuddered when he heard it, while Anna was stunned when she heard it. Taking advantage of this gap, Duke stretched out his other hand and pressed directly on the remote control on Anna's waist. Shit. Fuck. Li Jing felt an inexplicable evil fire rising to his heart at this time. It's like this, can we still return to the original show? Although the nano-worms have expanded to a radius of more than 10 kilometers during this period, it is still far from the desired shocking effect. Li Jing walked to the window of the cabin and looked out. In the distance, the Eiffel Tower had disappeared. The vehicles and buildings on the street were also in ruins, with no skeleton left, except for some black residues. Nothing else was left. As the green nano-worms disappeared, the area within a dozen kilometers was full of doomsday scenes. Congratulations, Savior, you did it. Anna stood up. Her anger was revealed. Li Jing frowned slightly. It seemed that the problem was not Duke. Anna's acting was really good. If you hadn't seen the movie, it would be hard to tell that Anna was about to be controlled by the nano-worms and had the signs of rebellion. Special forces. Several members gathered at the scrapped Hummer. Programmer circuit breaker inserted 2 radio wave receiving and conversion devices into the cortical tissue of the dead black soldier's brain. This device can convert the cortical radio waves of the newly dead person into images and present them. Unfortunately, the boss of Cobra, McAllen, had already arranged a backup plan. He placed a nano-worm solution in the body of the person who went out. Once the host died, the nano-worms in his body would explode and eat up the entire body. However, even so, Circuit Breaker also obtained some information from it. The body of the black soldier had just disappeared, and the French police also arrived at the scene of the accident. The special forces could not resist, and several people were directly escorted by the police to the headquarters of the French Anti-Terrorism Bureau for detention. At this time, Snake Eyes, who was hiding aside, had recovered a lot of spirit. Seeing the special forces being arrested, he could only start to act alone. Anna, what's wrong with you? You start to care now? Okay, I don't know you very well. You didn't know me in the first place. No one cared about the alternative flirting between Duke and Anna, but White Ghost remembered the childhood with Snake Eyes at this time. McAllen was really good enough. He specially found 2 people who would betray to carry out the mission. This was also a bad omen. Li Jing shook his head and sat aside alone, thinking about how to make greater achievements next. The plane was traveling at high speed. directly reaching the floating ice space of Cobra far away and the underground glacier of the Arctic. The distance from Paris to the Arctic was long, but the plane was extremely fast, so it was just an ordinary long-distance trip. After more than 10 hours, the destination was reached. The plane landed smoothly, and Li Jing and several others left the cabin door one after another. It was freezing cold outside, and all they could see was a vast expanse of white scenery. The cold wind was howling, and it blew the cold wind into the bones in their bodies. After walking a few steps, they entered a glacier cave, which was filled with some modern high-tech facilities, and even a hydraulic fighter was parked inside. Li Jing's heart moved, and he slowly walked closer to the hydraulic fighter as if he was very curious. The white ghost took out a small remote control and gently pressed it on a wall that looked like ordinary ice and snow. The ice and snow wall was a high-tech camouflage device, and soon revealed its true appearance. The ice and snow disappeared, and replaced by a passage to the underground base. Duke, who was behind everyone, was not at ease at this time. He suddenly knocked down the soldier next to him, snatched the box containing the nano-worm warheads, turned around and wanted to escape from here. Chapter 71 Ice Space. Swish! A four-cornered dart flew out and hit Duke's back. Duke fell to the ground injured, and the box in his hand also slipped to the side. White Ghost took a few steps forward, picked up the nano-warhead container on the ground, bent down, looked at Duke with a smile, and said, "What do you think? Run 3,000 miles on the ice? Idiot!" White Ghost's face turned cold, and he stretched out his hand to pull out the dart behind Duke. Sneer! White Ghost stood up, carrying the box, and walked into the passage first. Anna glanced at Duke, turned around and followed behind White Ghost. Li Jing also left the hydraulic fighter at this time, and took a few steps forward to catch up with Anna and others in front. Inside the passage is an underwater elevator that leads directly to the base under the deep sea. Everyone entered. The elevator started, and went all the way down. The floating ice space is very spectacular at first glance, and it gathers all the top technologies of this era. Pulse, hydraulic, electronic, nano, all kinds of high-tech equipment are displayed vividly. The base here covers at least dozens of square kilometers. It looks like an ancient large castle, and also like a giant tiger shark lurking in the deep sea to hunt. The elevator arrived at the designated location, and the front door opened. The Cobra General Boss McCarran was already waiting outside the elevator. White Ghost stepped out of the elevator first. "There are 3 warheads left." White Ghost raised the briefcase casually. "Put these warheads on the missiles and be ready to launch within an hour." "It will be ready soon," White Ghost responded and turned to leave, but stopped after taking 2 steps. He turned around and looked at Li Jing, and then said to McCarran, "I am White Ghost's senior brother, Black Ghost." Li Jing smiled slightly, stepped forward and introduced himself. Li Jing understood that the word senior brother was a taboo for White Ghost. Oh, McCallan was well informed and had already known that an outsider had been involved in this operation. He waved his hand to signal White Ghost to continue the mission. After White Ghost left, McCallan turned to look at Li Jing with interest. "Asian, Chinese or Japanese? I don't represent anyone, and no one can represent me. I am just me." "Oh, interesting. Welcome to join, Black Ghost." McCallan smiled and stretched out his hand to shake hands with Li Jing. Li Jing smiled and stretched out his hand. McCallan was born with the appearance of a villain. Even if he dressed meticulously and in a suit, it was difficult to hide his eyes full of desire and evil. To McCallan, Li Jing was just a side dish, and Anna was the main course. Well, it sounds a bit evil to say this, but the meaning is almost the same. He let go of his attention to Li Jing and turned to the beautiful Anna beside him. "My goddess." McCallan kissed Anna, turned his head and looked at Anna's ex-husband Duke with a smile. "You feel uncomfortable?" McCallan didn't intend to listen to Duke's reply. He walked to the tied Duke and continued to talk to himself. "It's funny, isn't it? The balance of power in the whole world is about to change, and these 2 guys are still fighting for a girl here." Bang! Duke's forehead hit McCallan's nose directly, interrupting his nonsense. McCallan screamed and squatted on the ground, covering his nose. The guards on the side stepped forward and held Duke down and beat him violently. Li Jing, who was watching the show next to him, had no intention of stepping forward to help. There was no way. He also didn't like McAllen. When Anna saw Duke being beaten, fragments of the time she spent with Duke flashed in her mind. The nano-worm's suppression of her was getting weaker and weaker, and they were about to lose control of her. Li Jing was indeed right about this. On the plane when she came here, Anna had already shown signs of recovering herself. Otherwise she would not deliberately approach Duke and ask him to turn off the device that controlled the nano-devouring worms. Shit. I'll make you more and more unhappy. McAllen stood up and touched his nose that was hit. I'm already very unhappy. Duke, lying on the ground, spat out a mouthful of blood and said it in an extremely impolite tone. McAllen's eyes narrowed, and he turned and left with a cold snort. Anna came to her senses and followed McAllen, and Li Jing followed. Get up. The guard pulled Duke up and pressed him to follow everyone out of here. The members of the Special Forces have been released after the mediation of the U.S. President, and the condition is that they are not allowed to enter France for life, which means that they will never be able to enter France again in their lifetime. The superior ordered that all Special Forces personnel return to their respective countries for trial and investigation. The parachute cord, circuit breaker, and Scarlet did not want to give up halfway. Using the known information and the signal location they tracked, they wanted to continue to explore the Arctic. Under the maintenance of General Hawk, the leader of the Special Forces, the Special Forces used biological detectors disguised as fish and have detected the image of the floating ice base. Snake Eyes has also joined everyone and is waiting for action. The three-dimensional map of the Cobra ice base has been mastered. After discussion, General Hawk commanded a large number of team members who were about to be dismissed to drive submarines directly from underwater, while Circuit Breaker and Snake Eyes attacked from the ground. At the ice base, McAllen, who didn't know that there would be a tough battle next, was still bragging about wanting to introduce his ace doctor. This was a room similar to a monitoring room. A man with a mask respirator was sitting in front of the screen, fiddling with a white mask in his hand. He was dressed in black. His hair looked awkward, and he was blind in one eye. His whole image was simply the villain among villains. McAllen already looked like a villain, but this man looked more like a villain than him. Ah, guests are coming. Through the monitors in the base, the masked man found McAllen and his group. He put away the mask in his hand and stood up to receive them. Come and see the genius behind the nano-worms. McAllen's voice came from the door. The masked man stepped forward and greeted him, saying, Genius, you're too polite. Several people entered the room. The masked man walked to a large screen and introduced casually, we are loading nano-warheads, using high-speed missiles. When it reaches its maximum speed, it will reach Mach 5. Even the Special Forces don't have the technology to catch them. Yes, the Special Forces are not able to catch them, but the hydraulic fighter of Cobra can reach a speed of Mach 6. Which is enough to destroy the nano-warheads. Moreover, it was placed at the gate for people to drive away. It was really a wonderful act. Li Jing shook his head and complained in his heart. He knew the origin of this doctor. This person was Anna's brother who thought he died on the battlefield. But Anna didn't know that her brother was not only alive, but also inherited the research results of others on nano-worms. Even the nano-solution on Anna's body was developed by this brother and injected into her personally. McAllen is courting death. No matter what he does, he never catches up or has enough time. Now he is bringing outsiders to show off the effectiveness of his missiles. Moreover, the next Cobra will continue to follow this fine tradition until it dies out. Chapter 72. So who are these two? The masked doctor finished his speech and turned to look at the two unfamiliar faces of Li Jing and Duke. McAllen put his hands in his pockets, smiled slightly, and said, the yellow-skinned one is our new partner. What's his name? McAllen raised his finger and nodded his head, as if he suddenly remembered, and said with a hypocritical smile, oh, it's Black Phantom. As for the one next to him, he is our uninvited guest, and we need you to entertain him well. Doctor, the masked doctor turned around and looked at Duke, and nodded. I'll prepare it for him. After responding, the masked doctor turned around and left without paying attention to everyone, and the snake demon soldiers escorting Duke also pushed Duke to catch up with the masked doctor's footsteps. Anna was no longer controlled by the nano-worms at this time, and she recovered herself. She looked at Duke, who was taken away, and hesitated a little, not knowing what to do. McCallan turned around and looked at Anna, smiled meaningfully, turned around and left directly, and the white ghost who had returned from completing the mission also followed. Li Jing seemed like a transparent person. He put the goal first and didn't care about these face-saving projects. Then he left the room. Anna was the only one left. Anna stood there thinking constantly. Suddenly, she seemed to have figured something out. She gritted her teeth and went out, chasing the direction where Duke was taken away. Just as Anna disappeared, Li Jing appeared again. He curled his lips and followed Anna leisurely. Mars Industries, the Cobra, is an arms production company and a manufacturer of at least 70% of the world's weapons. To put it bluntly, McCarran's plan is the principle of spear and shield. On the one hand, it sells weapons to people, and on the other hand, it helps people build defense facilities. The company's most powerful high-tech is not weapons and equipment, but the research and development and construction of high-tech bunker facilities. The structure of the floating ice space is extremely complex, with many passages. Li Jing, who is a little road-shy, would not be able to wander around here without a guide. At this time, outside the floating ice space, the special forces were divided into two groups and had surrounded the base. Snake Eyes, Scarlet, Circuit Breaker, and Parachute Troop attacked from the main gate on the ice. General Hawk led a large number of members in an underwater submarine to surround the entire base from the bottom of the sea under the glacier. Boom 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 tilde whoosh whoosh tilde. Snake Eyes and others had just dealt with the guards guarding the gate of the base. The sudden violent vibration made them very scared. Snake Eyes listened carefully and found the source of the vibration. He jumped several times and quickly got out of the glacier cave. Cocket tilde. The ice surface shattered, as if a door to hell was opened. Before Snake Eyes and others could think of anything, rocket launchers rose from the ground of the glacier. Whoosh tilde whoosh whoosh tilde. 3 missiles quickly took off, and the hot propulsion flames burst out, melting a large area of the surrounding thick glaciers. Snake Eyes reacted quickly, running back into the cave in a few steps. In the blink of an eye, he drove out a ski car equipped with small ground-to-air missiles. Time was urgent, and Snake Eyes had no time to think. He had already pressed the launch and interception button. Whoosh tilde boom tilde. 3 missiles were launched, and the last one was shot down directly. McCarran, who was monitoring in the floating ice space, immediately heard the report. "Sir, we lost the missile in Beijing, the number 3 warhead." These 3 missiles were the nano-worm warheads that had been installed and launched, and the destinations had already been planned and set. Beijing, Moscow, and Washington were all important capitals of large countries. All defense systems are activated. Emergency alert. McCarran's face was ugly. Regardless of the cost of a warhead, the significance it represents and the benefits to be obtained alone, the loss is already immeasurable. "Yes, sir." White Ghost's eyes suddenly lit up. His mouth moved, and he said to himself, "He's here." White Ghost stood up and left, his obsession bursting out. The person he cared about the most, the person he wanted to defeat the most, the person who misunderstood him the most, he is here. Li Jing, who didn't know the situation outside, just stopped at this time, and Anna, who was not far away, stopped outside the door of a room and looked inside. Obviously, she had found the place, and Duke should be inside. In the room, Duke was tied to an operating table by Dr. Mask. His head was surrounded by long syringe needles. The syringe was filled with green nano-worm solution that could control human thinking and actions. Dr. Mask's real name is Rix, and he is Anna's younger brother. When he was on a mission in the battlefield, a violent explosion severely burned his body, and his face was scarred by countless scars, which was extremely scary. From then on, his hair could not grow, one of his eyes was blind, and even breathing became a problem, so he carried an auxiliary respirator all day. After surviving the explosion, Rex inherited all the research results of another doctor on nano-worms, and he was even better than his teacher, developing these green little things to a certain extreme level. "You son of a bitch. Anna buried you." He. Rex put on the respirator and covered his terrifying and hideous face again. He explained to Duke that all this was just a boring pastime. As for family affection, what is that? If you have that time, You might as well do more research and think more about how to rule the world. Duke, these perfect little cuties will bring you unexpected enjoyment. He tilted. The needle of the syringe was getting closer and closer to Duke's face. Duke felt that the sharp needle was about to pierce his skin. Rex smiled continuously and reached out to gently press the button on the console. At the critical moment, Anna flashed into the house and punched out, just wanting to knock Rex down and snatch the console. Swoosh! A black light flashed, standing between Anna's neck, and Li Jing's voice sounded softly from behind Anna. "Madam, you'd better not move." Several people in the room were stunned. Anna gritted her teeth and retracted her fist that was about to hit Rex. Rex was also startled. What was going on in front of him? "Doctor, continue." What's going on? What a suicidal thing." Li Jing cursed inwardly. When watching movies, he felt that villains basically had no concept of time, and this masked man was the best among them, until the second part. He also failed in this detail problem. "Doctor, your nanoworms are ineffective." "What? This is impossible." Li Jing's face was not very good, and the corner of his mouth moved, saying, "She has recovered her memory. The facts are in front of us." Rex hadn't replied yet, but Anna was not honest. There was a knife in front of her to stop her. She hit Li Jing's head with the back of her head. Li Jing didn't care and flashed slightly. Anna didn't hit Li Jing's head, but let herself get closer to Li Jing's arms. Li Jing put his left hand around Anna's waist and put his mouth slightly close to Anna's ear. He said coldly, "Anna, you'd better not move, otherwise you will say goodbye to your man first." Chapter 73 Remote Control Bomb. Let go. Li Jing did not answer Anna, but looked up at Rex, who had no concept of time. "Doctor, is it time to move on to the next step?" Oh, okay." Rex came back to his senses and could only put aside Anna's question for the time being. He smiled slightly in his hoarse voice and said, "Next, it's time to witness the birth of a miracle." Li Jing looked at the fake Liu key on in front of him with a frown and pressed the button. With a humming sound, the machine started, and the needle of the syringe was getting closer and closer to Duke's cheek. "Duke, Don apostrophe T tilde." Anna struggled violently regardless of the threat. Anna, the needle of the syringe had already pierced Duke's flesh. The painful howls continued, but could not stop the severe pain brought to Duke by the nanoworms. In just a blink of an eye, Duke could not bear it anymore, and his eyes rolled over and fainted with a hideous face. Anna was anxious and just wanted to check on Duke. Li Jing let go and stopped intercepting him. The nanoworms had already been injected, so there was no need to hold him hostage. Haha. "Mr. Black Phantom, thank you for your help, but can you explain why you are here?" What happened to Anna? To Rex, nanoworms were his belief in victory. He had never seen anyone recover after being injected with nanoworm solution. This kind of thing could not happen at all. It was impossible. The door opened, and McCarran came with a few people. He was also stunned when he saw the situation in the room. "What's going on?" McCarran frowned. He didn't care that Duke was unconscious. What was the situation with Anna's crying? "Your goddess has betrayed me." Li Jing curled his lips and answered. As for why Rex was here, Li Jing had no intention of answering. "I have never seen a human being who can suppress nanoworms, even for a while," Rex explained briefly. He was a professional in nanoworms. McCarran looked at the unconscious Duke, took a deep breath, and said, "She did it because of this man. It seems that the pain is tormenting her." Rex nodded, agreeing with this point of view. Boom boom tilde. Suddenly there was a loud noise, and then the room shook violently. McCarran and his men were knocked to the ground and couldn't get up, while Li Jing stood firmly in place without moving his feet. This tofu shoddy project was built. Did so much money go to the nano-warheads? Activate the pulse cannon. McCarran steadied his feet and quickly issued an order to the control center. "It's being done, sir." Ignoring what these people did, Li Jing went out of the room directly. The Special Forces general attack had been launched. It seemed that the parachute cord had already driven the hydraulic fighter to the sky to block the nano-missiles. After walking through several intersections, Li Jing, who wanted to find the White Ghost, found Snake Eyes and Scarlet. They killed several guards and entered the nano-missile monitoring room. Snake Eyes and others were about to close the door when Li Jing flashed in. Whoosh tilde. As soon as he entered the room, A sharp arrow came towards him. Li Jing swung his knife and knocked the arrow aside and into the wall. There were 4 people in their room at this time. In addition to Li Jing, there were Snake Eyes from the Special Forces, Scarlet Redhead, and the programmer Circuit Breaker. Scarlet's crossbow was a high-tech product, and the arrows were specially made with a series of functions such as explosion and tracking. The force of Circuit Breaker was not worth mentioning, but the remaining Snake Eyes was extraordinary, and his force was even slightly higher than that of White Ghost. Li Jing had just knocked the sharp arrow away, and Snake Eyes' series of sharp knives came over him. Dang 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 tilde the sharp knives collided repeatedly. Scarlet held a crossbow arrow and was ready at all times. Snake Eyes' knife skills were fast and heavy, but it was still a long way from taking Li Jing's life. Snake Eyes slashed at Li Jing's neck again, and Li Jing did not dodge, directly accumulated strength with both hands, and hit out fiercely. Dang tilde Snake Eyes was knocked back 7 or 8 steps by the huge force. He was slightly stunned, and suddenly he attacked again, and the next attack seemed even more crazy than before. Did you recognize him? Li Jing did not give in, and he counterattacked when he saw the opportunity. Snake Eyes had already understood that Li Jing was the one who broke his sharp knife from the Hummer during the road chase. The 2 people in the field were faster and heavier than each other, and the circuit breaker on the side was not idle either. He established communication and directly remotely controlled the parachute cord of the hydraulic fighter to find the remaining 2 nano-worm missiles. Open the parachute cord. One is destined for Moscow, and the other is going to Washington. You have to hurry up. No problem. This plane can reach Mach 6, which is simply awesome. Hurry. 4 minutes left. Dang dang. Finding a gap, Li Jing's arms bulged with blue veins, and his strength doubled directly, and he struck out along the blade. Dang tilde Snake Eyes' hands shook, and the whole person was directly blown away 4 or 5 meters by the huge force. With a bang, his back hit the machine beside him. Sparks flashed, and Snake Eyes slid down and half knelt on the ground. Buzz tilde Scarlet raised her crossbow and aimed, ready to shoot. You'd better put it down, otherwise the consequences of pressing this thing are not what you are willing to bear. Li Jing took out a palm-sized remote control, held it in his hand and waved it. What is this? Scarlet frowned, and Snake Eyes beside him slowly stood up, made a knife flower, stood with his knife horizontally, ready to attack at any time. Haha, it's just a small toy. You can let the guys on the plane check the fuselage first. Li Jing put away the knife and smiled slightly. Open the parachute cord, search and check the fuselage immediately. Why, I'm chasing now. Hurry up. Okay. Not long after, the sound of opening the parachute cord came again, but it was already furious. Oh, shit, what the hell is this? Open the parachute cord. What's going on? Answer me. Scarlet raised her hand and pinched the earphone. It's a bomb, a solid-state remote-controlled bomb. Open the parachute. Okay, everyone, it's time for us to talk. We don't have a few minutes. Li Jing interrupted Scarlet, who was still trying to talk. What exactly do you want to do? What are the conditions? Scarlet was anxious, not only for the parachute cord but also for the missile. At this time, there were still 3 minutes before the first missile landed at the destination, and she couldn't afford any delay. Technical information, all kinds of high-end technical information, as long as I am satisfied. The remote control will be yours. Li Jing originally planned to blow up the plane directly and let the nano-warhead fall to destroy the world. Unfortunately, after thinking about it, he didn't know where the remote control of the nano-worm was, and McAllen and Dr. Mask were like helpless ado, with no chance of winning at all. Besides, there was another main reason why he couldn't do this. Shit, where can we find technical information at this time? It's too late. Chapter 74, Baseball. I can wait slowly, otherwise, you can come and grab it. Li Jing shook his hand and sat aside as if it was none of his business. Stop talking, Scarlet, just do what he says, unless you want to see the parachute cord being opened and buried with Moscow. Circuit Breaker interrupted Scarlet, winked at her, and made a direct conclusion. In a few minutes, it was impossible to break into the core system of Cobra. Circuit Breaker had to connect through the network and quickly report to General Hawk of the Special Forces, asking him to send some technical information that Li Jing specifically requested. The remaining time was getting shorter and shorter, and the information was finally transmitted. Circuit breaker breathed a sigh of relief and threw a USB flash drive to Li Jing. Li Jing reached out to take it, but did not verify it. There was no other way. In this world, he, a college student, knew nothing about other high-tech except the knowledge of English that could be used for normal communication. It was like a bumpkin who had just entered the city. If there was no one to lead him, it would be difficult for Li Jing to get out of this space. Remote control. Scarlet stretched out her hand. Open the door. Click tilde. The door opened. Li Jing walked to the door, threw the remote control back, and it turned into a parabola and fell towards Scarlet. After leaving the room, the door behind him closed again. Li Jing's mouth moved slightly. The fundamental reason for exchanging the information was that Li Jing was not sure that the remote control would not fail at such a long distance. Although this bomb cost 50 points to buy, it must be at least on the ground to send the start signal, and now it is hundreds of meters deep under the glacier. In addition to the protection measures of the base, there is no way that a normal signal source can be sent from here. Judging from the performance of the circuit breaker, he should have discovered this, but he chose to agree to the conditions instead of making it clear. Li Jing understood why he did this, because they could not afford it. As for turning against each other afterwards, it is not the right time yet. The death of a few Special Forces members is simply insignificant. This is inconsistent with Li Jing's concept of interests. Now the base is besieged and there are enemy troops everywhere. There is no time to waste on them. The battle outside the base became more and more intense. Hundreds of submarines of various types attacked each other, explosions continued, and the sound of gunfire was endless. The floating ice base was already in danger of falling. Li Jing spent half an hour to find bailing. The failure of the floating ice base was a foregone conclusion. Li Jing wanted bailing to obtain all the technical information and then evacuate from here. The information is not with me. I can help you get it. But don't forget your promise. No problem. After leaving here, the promise will take effect immediately. Bailing's eyes moved slightly, and without saying anything, he turned around and led the way. Li Jing smiled and followed him. It was not just a problem of information. If you want to leave this base, without Bailing's guidance, Li Jing alone would never be able to do it. Not to mention the problem of submarines, just the many Special Forces personnel outside. Li Jing was not so arrogant that he would not die even if he was surrounded and bombed. The pulse cannon begins charging. Buzz 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 tilde prepare to fire. Boom tilde a blue energy wave erupted violently from the cannon that was dozens of meters long. Under the cold sea, it rushed straight and fast like a giant tiger shark. Boom 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 tilde wherever the energy wave passed, it pushed forward. Whether it was a submarine or a building, it crushed and exploded all the way without stopping. Get out of the way! Get out of the way! Everyone listen! Attack the pulse cannon together! The Special Forces personnel urgently ordered that the cannon must be destroyed first, otherwise the threat was too great. Compared with it, the submarine's force was just a toy gun, and there was no threat at all. Inside the floating ice base, White Ghost relied on his identity to obtain some less core technical information. But as for the core technology of Cobra, even he had no way to do it. That's all I have. As for the rest, you can wait or find a way yourself. Bailing handed the information to Li Jing. Li Jing nodded. He understood what bailing meant. Waiting meant waiting for Bailing to get it. If he didn't want to, he could do it himself. Let's leave here first. You go first. I have something else to do. Bailing put on the mask and turned around to leave. Is it Snake Eyes? Don't you think it would be more interesting to find him after you learn ninjutsu? It's not safe here. After you leave, I can teach you for 3 months. It's up to you how much you can learn. Damn, how can I leave by myself? Drive a submarine? Or swim? Li Jing had to raise the stakes again. Retreating without a fight is never what a warrior wants to do, and this is even more true of Bailing's character. He paused and then wanted to leave again. White Ghost, there is still a chance to fight, but my patience is limited. If you continue to be stubborn, then our agreement ends here. You, White Ghost stretched out his hand to hold a knife. He was not afraid of Li Jing, but he was not a fool. Knowing that he was no match for Li Jing, There was no need to take action. Why? Li Jing knew what Bay Ghost was asking. He curled his lips and said, "Because I can't drive a submarine." White Ghost's figure trembled obviously. He never expected to get such an answer. This made this cold warrior feel a little overwhelmed. "I'm still a road idiot." His figure trembled again. White Ghost suddenly felt a lot of pressure. He turned around numbly, and didn't even dare to look at Li Jing. He led the way and left here, never mentioning staying to fight Snake Eyes to the death. There was no way. White Ghost had been worn out by Li Jing and had no fighting spirit at all. If he had a 50% chance of winning against Snake Eyes before, now even 20% was a little lacking. Bailing led the way, and Li Jing followed closely with a slight smile. This was the best result. If Bailing wanted to stay and fight Snake Eyes to the end, then Li Jing wanted to kidnap a driver and leave first. But if he did that, the things behind would be difficult again. Since they were leaving, Li Jing and the others did not waste any more time. The battle at the floating eye space had reached its final stage, and there were only a few members of the Cobra who were still resisting stubbornly. The two boarded a submarine, and Bailing directly commanded the personnel to drive the submarine to dive. At this time, the base was surrounded. If they wanted to leave, they would have to spend more time. The nuclear-powered submarine quickly cut through the water flow, and the surrounding base facilities had been beaten to pieces by the special forces. Li Jing felt a little distressed when he saw it. It was really too damn wasteful. The submarine was extremely thrilling along the way. It shot down more than a dozen enemy submarines in a row, and then successfully broke through the blockade and escaped along the escape route planned by the base. The fate of Rex and McAllen is not so optimistic. These two have always had bad luck. Very bad luck. Bailing is also unlucky. Li Jing feels a little scared when he comes out with him. Chapter 75 Level 2 Simulation. There are still 20 seconds until the explosion. Hurry up, hurry up, hurry up, General Hawk whispered to himself, his eyes fixed on the screen. The screen showed the flying nano-worm warhead and the hydraulic fighter that was still desperately chasing. This was the last one heading to Washington. The one in Moscow had been shot down and destroyed. The parachute cord gritted his teeth and accelerated desperately. There was no time. "You are too close, parachute cord. Back off," the circuit breaker called repeatedly, extremely anxious. The hydraulic fighter was only 10 meters away from the high-speed flying warhead. Even if the warhead was shot down, the hydraulic fighter would not be safe. "In fact, I think this distance is just right." The parachute cord smiled slightly, and opened his mouth to speak a Scottish Celtic. "Fire." The hydraulic fighter automatically locked onto the nano-worm warhead in front of it, and the energy weapon automatically popped out and started firing. Boom! A flash of blue light. The green nano-worm warhead was blown to pieces, but the hydraulic fighter was sailing too fast, and before the nano-worms disappeared, the whole fuselage was contaminated with nano-worms. The crisis in Washington was resolved, but the crisis of opening the parachute cord had just arrived. He could only pull the plane's route up rapidly and fly directly to the high altitude of the atmosphere. He had to do this. The fuselage covered with nano-worms had become a missile. It would be a disaster if it fell to the ground. After reaching the high altitude, as long as these nano-worms devoured the plane, there would be no other medium for it to exist. The special forces were nervously waiting for the news of opening the parachute cord, while McCarran and Rex, who were escaping in the submarine, had some intention of bullying the host. Rex injected McCarran, whose face was burned by Anna, with nano-worm solution, turning McCarran into a monster with a metal face. After that, Rex renamed McCarran Destro, and he also changed a metal mask and called himself the Cobra Commander-in-Chief. It's finally time for Cobra to rise and show itself. With a rough and hoarse voice, Rex was obviously preparing to take the position and lead Cobra himself, but the submarine he was riding had been damaged and was sailing at a very slow speed. Not long after, the submarine was intercepted by many special forces and surrounded. Cobra has many bases around the world, and the floating eye space is just one of them. The submarine Li Jing was riding on has never surfaced and is heading directly to the nearest base. 2 days later, Li Jing's submarine sailed all the way, hiding its whereabouts, and finally arrived at another base of Cobra at dawn. This base is far less huge than the floating ice base, but it also has complete facilities and a large number of personnel. Under the condition of self-sufficiency, it can also form a considerable effective defense force. Just one day after Li Jing and others arrived at the new base, the news of the arrest of McCarran and Dr. Rex came, and another member of Cobra, Satan, had infiltrated the White House and replaced the president after changing his appearance through nanoworm technology. The ability of the nanoworm solution is very great. It can allow a person to change the morphology of cell tissues and fundamentally become another person's appearance. This is somewhat similar to Li Jing's cell control. White Ghost. The first thing to do when learning ninjutsu is to refine chakra, and chakra is the basic condition for using various ninjutsu. Chakra is composed of. White Ghost has a high talent for learning. He is naturally suitable for learning ninjutsu. He can understand almost everything Li Jing says, but after all, he is too old and started too late. In addition, refining chakra requires a lot of cell energy. In the real world, martial arts almost all use the consumption of potential to forcibly train and improve, so almost everyone who practices martial arts has a hidden injury, and White Ghost is no exception. No matter how high the talent is, it is too late to start. If White Ghost does not encounter any great opportunity to change, then his achievements in this life will be extremely limited. Li Jing's rapid progress in chakra training is not a coincidence or luck. This is due to his own lack of hidden injuries that consume potential, coupled with the system's enhancement and the ability of cell control, which can reach the level of Chunin in just nearly a year. 2 months passed in a flash. White Ghost practiced hard almost day and night. As long as his body could bear it, he never stopped. But even so, White Ghost's chakra storage was extremely limited, and the only clone technique he learned could only be used 3 times in one battle. Li Jing's cell control smoothly transitioned to the second level, and his strength doubled again to more than 7,000 kilograms with one hand. His bones, muscles, and 5 senses were also strengthened again. The amount of chakra extracted also increased a lot, and he was not too far away from the level of a Jonin. The branching ability unique to the second level supernatural power added a very useful skill on the original basis, simulation, simulating the cell structure of all animals, so that he can use the survival skills of many animals. Snakes, heat-sensing organs, chameleons, color-changing skin, owls, night vision eyes, ants, giant strength. The simulation power is powerful, and there are many skills that can be extended, and they are all very practical abilities. Even the subcutaneous rhinoceros tissue designed for itself at the beginning did not really play its power until then. White Ghost, you are very talented and learn very quickly, but it's a pity that you started too late. Li Jing shook his head. Lying on the ground was White Ghost, who kept practicing the substitution technique until he collapsed. "How tilde it's nothing." White Ghost stood up with difficulty, not caring at all. "Okay, whatever you want. Why do you need these?" "A warrior won't care at all." Hee. Everyone is in a different position and has different values. Li Jing knew what White Ghost was talking about. It was nothing more than a bargaining chip for trading. Those technical data were just some useless things in White Ghost's eyes, and could not be compared with the ninjutsu that improves strength. "Maybe, White Ghost, if a friend doesn't trust me from the bottom of his heart for more than 10 years because of a misunderstanding, then in my opinion, this friend is not worth associating with, and it's better not to have him. But you have to take care of yourself." Li Jing turned and left after saying that. Just stop at that point. This is the difference in their values. In Li Jing's opinion, friendship cannot withstand any test. There is no trust at all, and there is no need for it to exist. If Bailing still defected to the government, Li Jing would not mind killing this half-disciple himself. After Li Jing left, Bailing was left alone to ponder. He did not ask Li Jing why he knew all this. There was no need. Bailing was also a person who only cared about the result and not the process, otherwise he would not make such a big sacrifice to wait for a misunderstanding. Traitors are always a shame for soldiers. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.